everybody, Matthew Turner, Roar the Lions UK podcast, here early on a Thursday just to chat with you guys for a bit. We do have Dave coming on from the Panthers Nation podcast, one of the premier talents in the Panthers podcasting world. Shout out to Grandizer for making that happen. Dave's going to come on and bring some expertise, and he's going to be on from the start for about an hour. So if you guys have any questions that you want to get in on the live chats, and at me on there right now, and we'll get some questions in there for him. We're going to go for a bit of a different format because we've got him for about an hour, and you guys know how long we like to run sometimes. So we're going to do news at the end. We'll do preamble at the end, and we'll just get straight into the good stuff, and then we'll do all of the other stuff afterwards. So hope you're all well. Hope you've had a good week. I've got one more day left of work. I can't wait to be done for the year. Won't be back until the 3rd of January, and I'm going to be very, very pleased with that. I am still very under the weather, so if I eke out a bit of a cough or a sneeze or something and I kill your eardrums, I apologise. It's something I'm trying to shift big time. I'm dosed up to the eyeballs, but there we go. That's a good question, Peo. I'm going to get that in. Ant is in the chat somewhere, but he's not appearing as yet. I'm hoping. So we haven't had a DM saying he's not coming on, which is good. I hope you guys have got some good plans for Christmas coming up. Are you guys doing anything, seeing family or something like that? That would be good. I'm going to go to girlfriend's parents on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then my folks for Boxing Day and the day after. So it's going to be a really nice Christmas. And how you doing, my man?
I'm alright, how are you?
Surviving. Just about getting there.
Good.
Death by cold. Well, there we go.
Everybody's getting it at the minute, it's everywhere.
The thing is, in my old job, I would have called in sick, but in the new one, there's definitely people in there worse off than me. So I'm like, I can't call in sick when there are people, like, dying in there. Like, it's not going to be a good look.
Yeah. We've just got no staff left at our place. Everyone's off ill at the minute. It's all over. I kind of got it early, I think, and I'm glad. I'm done with it.
Fingers crossed. Are you working over Christmas? Does your place open over Christmas Day, Boxing Day?
I'm working all the major days over Christmas.
Oh, shit, man. That sucks.
It is what it is.
Like, it was a day I never wanted to work Christmas Day, but it's always, like, the happiest day of the year. Like, all of the clientele were super appreciative of just in a good mood. Even when things go wrong, everyone's like, don't worry about it, it's Christmas, no one cares. Like, it's the happiest day of the year to work, apart from the fact that there's nowhere else I'd rather not be.
I get paid extra, so there is that. So I don't mind it too much. I'm used to it.
Det Fan Man, Houston, after next year, he will still be on only the second year of the... He's not on a rookie contract because we cut him from the draft deal that we give him. But even as now a de facto UDFA, you still get 4 years of control for someone. So going into year 3, he will be an exclusive rights free agent. We can sign him for the bare minimum, and if he doesn't sign that contract, he can't play for another team. So he's definitely here for cheap through year 3 if we want him to be here. And then for year 4, he'd be a restricted free agent. And that's when the tendering comes in round 1, round 2, or right of refusal. So don't worry about Houston. He will be back. And Dave is coming in right now. Quirky says, let's get back to 25 points per game. I think the Lions fans have been spoiled with so much offense this year. Like, that's the expectation now, and it's a bit weird. Drew said, well, it would have been 4 years, but they cut him. but it will be 3 years with exclusive rights at the very least. And then with restricted free agency, that's still only, I don't know how much RFA was, it's like 4 million or something for a second round tender. So I don't think we have to worry about that for a long time yet. We're talking about James Houston, a guy who hasn't played 100 snaps in the NFL. I know he's got loads of sacks and everyone loves him, including Ann, but he can't play against the run right now. That's why he doesn't play every snap, even though he's one of the most effective players on our team in pass rush. We have to earn the right to get him on the field. And we've done that really well by being good against the run. But he needs to develop still. He's a raw rookie. His skills in pass rush are excellent, Ant. But I don't know. Do you have a difference of opinion to me? Do you think he could play a lot more?
I don't know. I mean, you've got to take it easy with him. The reason he's able to be as effective as he is because he's not on every single down and he can keep the tank fresh and he can keep going. But he's shown a wonderful array of pass rush moves and he's made plays on special teams. He made a dual play on that return touchdown the other week. You know, two separate plays on the same play. So he's gunning for it. So give it him. You know, the only way they can get better is real live reps on the field. So keep going. But as for the contract deal, I mean, the 4th year is irrelevant. If he has 3 good years, you'll be paying him because you'll be demanding a trade if he isn't, which I wouldn't blame him for. So
yeah, or you put
you know, three years.
Yeah,
3 years is always, you know, it doesn't. He's not get if he's still here after 4 years, he's getting paid basically because if he's here for 3 years as a sixth round rookie, he's doing something right and he's playing well. So you know, the contract stuff's irrelevant really at this point. So. But I think he should get more time. He's doing more than Austin Bryant. He's doing more than Charles Harris. He's doing more than Julian Aquara. Give him the reps. See what he can do. It's the whole point of it. Everyone said that Malcolm Rodriguez couldn't play as a starter all season and that he'd go bad and something had happened, and it's not happened. He's a 6th round rookie as well, and he's just carried on playing like he did when he started. He's played well all season. So you don't know until you try. So I would just go in there, give him more reps, see what he can do, and if he can, keep him in there, keep him going. He's doing more than most of the other pass rushers are doing, so why not?
I'm just fearful of doing too much too soon when we're in the midst of a run. Hey Dave, how you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on, sir?
How are you? Can you hear us all fine?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
All good. All good.
All right.
Thank you for coming on and giving your time. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem, man. I'm still trying to get everything going. Like I was supposed to have the day off today, but unfortunately, I had other things going on today.
Well, that's okay. We can take our time. Me and Ant can chat for days, so don't worry about that. Is that your work or is that your home? Because I love the video game arcade back there.
Oh no, this is that. Now I work from home today. Yeah, no, I work from home today.
What have we got?
Yeah, because I was supposed to be off. My son had an appointment, it got canceled late afternoon. So I said, you know what? I'll just work from home. I got a couple of things I got to finish up anyway. Said I'll get off at 2:00, and then the appointment's next week. I'll do it while I'm out next week.
Just adjusting the audio slightly because they're saying they can't hear Ant. I don't know if there's a... No, your mic's right next to your face, so you should be fine. I don't know what's going on there.
I'm just speaking really quietly, so...
You are getting a lot of love in the chat for what's in the background there. Someone said Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, this guy can hang, party to watch the game at his house.
Yeah, I gotta pull up the chat. I'm assuming the chat's on the YouTube channel?
Yeah. There's a Twitch as well, but the majority of the chat's on YouTube, I think. So.
Yeah, let me pull up the YouTube channel real quick and so I can see what y'all talking about up on these streets.
Our resident Pats Lions fan says, "Can we have a Lions game party in that room?" It's all in there. Love it. Did you?
The thing is, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of rearranging it because I had like you guys see the Street Fighter and the Killer Instinct. The Killer Instinct's updating right now, and then I got the Street Fighter back here, but I got a Miss Pac-Man. I got a Final Fight. I got an NBA Jam over here. I got a Neo Geo one. Marvel Superheroes, Turtles, and I think I'm done because Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out with one, and it's been a disaster.
Oh man,
so
that sucks.
It's been a disaster. So from that standpoint, I think I'm gonna stay away from it.
A friend of mine over here builds things like that by himself. They put together an arcade type machine and put an emulator on there so that you can put your own games on there, but you can still play it with the joypad and whatever. It looks amazing what he's done to that.
Yeah, I can do the joypad thing too, but it's just a lot. Like I just don't. That's too much. Like I can do the emulation on my PC. You know, I'm a big gamer when I have time. When I was younger, I had way more time than I do now. Kids and everything else. You know, it makes it more difficult nowadays.
Life happened.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You gotta tell me.
How you doing? You good to go?
Yeah, I'm rocking, man. Right when y'all are.
Oh,
I'm trying to get my windows right. My windows are a mess right now. I'm just window moving.
That's cool. We'll do a little bit of preamble to start anyway, so I'll get cracking with that, and we'll see where we go. And I'm going to put all of the news and shit like that to the end, probably when if Dave goes, because there's no need for Dave to listen to all the Lions news, because
yeah.
No, I need all the intel I want, man. I'm a fantasy guy, so I'll take a little bit of news. I won't take all of it. I'll take some, not all of it.
All right. Well, let's do it then. Cool. Here we go.
I might have to play one of your players this week too. I'm in the fantasy. I'm in the fantasy playoffs, man.
I mean, Amon-Ra.
I got a couple
Who else are
Lions
you
on my
playing in the
squad.
Lions if it's not Amon-Ra?
The defense.
Oh
No.
Sorry. I had to. I apologize for that.
Absolutely not. No. Swift. DeAndre Swift.
Oh, whoa. Don't like that. Don't like your chances.
You didn't hear my look. You didn't hear my options, did you?
No, they can't be good.
So who would you play? I'm gonna give you my options.
Okay.
Who would you play? I got Devin Singletary against Chicago, which is that was a tough one. That's a tough one. Chris Olave, he might not play this week. He's going up against Cleveland. He's the number one wide receiver with Andy Dalton throwing to him. Darius Slayton against the Vikings. But it looks like I'm leaning. I might bite the bullet and play Zach Moss against Indianapolis. I'm still fighting that one. I picked him up. I was able to get him on waiver, so I'm still wrestling with that. Right now, Swift is on my flex. Is in my flex.
I'm tempted by Singletary. I'm tempted by Singletary. Like, he's the sort of guy that sometimes just disappears, but that defense is so bad.
It is, but the thing is, would they use him enough? He still splits work. Like, you still got to worry about Josh Allen. You still got to worry about so many other factors because Josh Allen could run away. So yeah, it could be Singletary. And this is for the flex spot because I've been playing 3 wide receivers most of the season because Swift's been hurt. Because my starting running backs right now is Cook and Kenneth Walker III. So I'm not.
That's
I just got to make sure I got to make sure Justin Herbert shows up against Indy. That's all. Because he didn't show up last week. I won despite him last week. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I got a pretty good squad. Can't complain.
That's a good team. That's a very good team. Right, let's get.
And my opponent lost Hurts, so he's scrambling right now.
Gardner Minshew ain't gonna get it done. So.
I am playing. I have Hurts in another league, and I am playing Minshew this week.
Oh no!
I'm playing Minshew.
It might.
I made a decision because it was either, huh?
It might be okay. I mean, he might do. He's always played above the expectations everywhere he's been. Minshew. It's just the expectations have been low. So.
Well, when and for folks who've watched my show, I'm the fantasy guy, but I always have a philosophy when it comes to drafting. I never try to draft quarterbacks early. So when I get somebody like a Jalen, when I get somebody like a Jalen Hurts, it's more like an icing on the cake type of situation. So the rest of my team is built pretty. It's pretty formidable.
Quite nice when you.
This team has Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, like I picked up Christian McCaffrey. I have Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill. Like, my team is formidable. So I just need a quarterback to give me 15 points. That's all I want. Like I beat the guy in the first round by almost 70 points. I just need somebody that gives me 15 a week. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not worried. Like I just don't want a 2-point quarterback day. I just need Minshew to give me 15 points. That's it.
I can't remember which quarterback it was that I had on my bench, but he had -4 through 3 quarters last week, and that was just atrocious. But hey, looks like you've got a new sub, my girl Miss Bell, saying she needed a fantasy channel. So you're getting a couple of new subs from our guys, I hope.
Yeah, we in PNP we cover the Panthers. We have a weekly show every Monday. For those who don't know, I'm one half of the show. Rashad is the other half. We go live every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because my buddy's in school. We're gonna head back to 8:30. We do it throughout the year, during the season, off season, never miss a Monday. But we also do draft coverage, fantasy football coverage, the whole nine. So we cover everything throughout the year because the NFL news is year round. We talk about other things too outside of the NFL occasionally. So it's a fun show, you know.
Sounds great. I'm going to ask you to do that again for our guys when I just press record for the audio show as well. The YouTube guys have obviously heard that, but you're going to have to plug yourself again.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Cool. Right, I'm going to hit the button and we'll go. Ant, you good?
Indeed.
All right, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 169, Beware Brown and Burns. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick, and we've got a special guest, Dave, from the Panthers Nation podcast. How you doing, boys?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, thank you.
How you doing, Dave?
Doing great, man. Doing great and happy to be here, man, to talk some Panthers versus Lions football. This got some playoff implications, which is a beautiful thing this late in the season because we haven't felt this in a very long time.
We are in a very similar boat. The Lions have not been 500 in December since 2017. So this has been a long time.
It sounds like us.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Club dub. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. Anyway, we've got Dave on from Panthers Nation podcast. Check them out at PNP Rashad and Dave show on YouTube. 18,000 subs, fantasy experts as well as experts in NFL draft and the Panthers. Go and check them out there. Dave, you said you never miss a Monday. What else do you guys talk about on there?
Well, on the Monday show is our live show. We go over the Panthers game. We do analytics. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the game. We talk about the ingoings around of the organization because of right now we're kind of in an influx. Right now we have an interim head coach with Steve Wilkes and things of that sort. But we also do breaking news shows, things that happens. We occasionally do roundtables with other Panthers podcasters. We'll do also roundtables with other NFC South podcasters throughout the season as well. My buddy Rashad does mock draft Mondays midway through the season. So every Monday he does a mock draft based on our draft position. Because we haven't had a playoff year since 2017. And everybody keeps talking about us doing a quarterback. So he started up mock draft Monday. So he does that when they're like, we started it when we started like 1-4. So he made the decision to do it really early because we thought that the season would get bad. We didn't anticipate that we'll be out here fighting for a playoff spot with Wilkes at the helm. But we're still doing it just to see how the draft keeps coming and going. And we also do fantasy football. I do a weekly show on Sundays right prior to kickoff. We go over inactives. I answer your questions about about decisions, just in case you caught a bad break on Thursday night, whether you ran into a monster or a guy that was dependable to you didn't work out on Thursday night. So I try to give you some home run hitters, some sleepers right into kickoff. And on Tuesday, I do a waiver wire show where I'll go over the data. I'll talk about some options that you could potentially pick up that could probably get you some help during the week. So fun times, man.
You guys
Fun
are
times
busy,
indeed.
man. I love that.
Yeah.
Got a lot of love in the chat as well. One of our biggest fans is on the YouTube chat saying, "I almost want to root for the Panthers because I like Dave." And if you were on the audio show and you haven't watched the YouTube, we actually talked 5 or 10 minutes before this, and you'll want to watch that because it was really cool. Dave's got a lot of video game machines in the background that were causing a lot of retro interest. So go and check that out.
Yeah.
Just to start off with a little bit of preamble from ourselves, Discord channel is going very strong. Got a lovely community down there of Lions fans. Check us out. You can join us by looking at the live chat from YouTube. A link is already up there. And you had a college football podcast day off last week for your birthday. How was it? You have a good birthday?
Oh, it was very good. Just starting to grapple with the realization that I'm moving further and further away from 30, but hey ho, it is just one of those things. But no, I went out and had a nice time, and college land is quiet at the minute apart from the bowl games. So yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll be doing the playoff previews and with deep dive. We're starting all our deep dives into players and everything. So I'm waiting for Christmas to pass and then I'm going to start. So yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday. All good fun.
And
Quick question for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Quick question for you, sir. Since you're a college football guy, did you watch any of the Celebration Bowl last weekend?
I did. I've watched quite a lot of the bowl games actually, but yeah, I enjoyed it quite very much. There's been some cracking games on so far. Usually the bowls really boring, but there's been some absolutely great games. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, like I for me, like
I actually bet on North Carolina Central to win. We do a
watch.
we do a pick watch for the bowl games. It's on our last one, and I actually picked North Carolina Central to win it. So I was absolutely delighted with the end of that game. I just felt really sorry for that tight end at the end. I dread to think the rollicking he got off his head coach for dropping that one right at the very end. It was
Yeah. Yeah, I went to the rival school of North Carolina Central. I went to North Carolina A&T State University.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, it was very hard for me to root for North Carolina Central, but I was happy for them.
I don't know. Yeah. I was as well. But with all the stuff going on with Dion and the players leaving, I just thought, North Carolina Central, they've not been bad this year, and I thought they've probably got half a chance in this. But it was a great game. I loved it start to finish. Do enjoy watching.
Yeah, the MEAC, the Mid-Eastern Atlantic Athletic Conference, they always get a raw deal compared to the SWAC because they don't get the same type of coverage, but they tend to play the better football. They tend to play a more physical brand of football. And so whenever they have this bowl game, the MEAC is 6-1 now.
Yeah.
Right. A&T won 4 out of the first 5 of them. And then A&T left the conference. So, and it's always been that way. So I think once A&T left the conference, there was this assumption that, the SWAC is just going to dominate this thing. And I'm like, no, whoever wins the MEAC is going to still should be the favorites because of the type of brand of football that they play. And then last year, South Carolina State won it. And this year, North Carolina Central wins it. So that's just the way it is because it's always the trenches, man. It's always the trenches. And which is a good segue because when you talk about how Carolina turned this around, it came down to the trenches. So,
well, they were pretty gritty as well. You had the fake punt in there, which was, that was really well executed, really well blocked, 50 yards in there. It was a great game to watch. Me and Ryan, the guy who do the college stuff, we've been watching more of sort of the MEAC and the SWAC and bits like this last year. I didn't really know that much about it, and we started doing it in the run up to last year's draft, and we've kept tabs on it this year. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a very enjoyable game. One of my favorite bowl games so far, that was.
Yeah, that's the Celebration Bowl every year. I always say, I was like, nobody, because it's on ABC, people watch it just for the intrigue, but it end up being one of the best bowl games of the year because all those games are insane.
Yeah,
every single one of them. Like last year, it was like one of the only blowout games, and the one prior to the pandemic, A&T won by 20. But before, A&T just blew it out the water at the end. But it was a back and forth game. The final score was like 64-44. It was like a bonanza. It was and the thing is, both teams had phenomenal defenses, and it turned into a bonanza.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
please don't forget to like the show, sub to the podcast, and download the app at Lions Nation Unite. That's Herman Moore's project to bring the best Lions content creators together. We're there, as well as Dota Dion and Lions on the Prowl and Micro Mike. Go and find us all there. And we're a Twitch affiliate as well. If you've got an Amazon Prime subscription, you've got a free Prime sub for Twitch. If you can chuck that our way, help support the podcast, that would be much appreciated. Let's crack on with the Lions news. And the quarterback, Josh Dobbs, has been signed from the practice squad to the Titans main roster. Ryan Tannehill expected to miss the rest of the regular season. Malik Willis is meant to get the start there now. And Joshua Dobbs has been at the Lions for about 10 days. And he's now the QB2 at the Tennessee Titans. And I mean, with the way that Malik Willis has been going for some of this year, who knows? He might actually see some game time. So you never know.
I would just like to say I called them frauds when they were at 7-2 or 7-3, and I've been proven right. Tennessee Titans, biggest, most fraudulent team in the NFL. I think he'll get some game.
I could find another more fraudulent team than the Tennessee Titans.
Go on then.
They're in your division.
Oh no! Don't gang up with Matt on me. That's Matt's pick as well for most fraudulent ball.
The Vikings.
No. You think the Lions are
the Vikings?
Oh, yeah.
No, the Vikings.
Yeah. 100%. I'm with you.
The
They're
Vikings.
awful. They're terrible.
The Vikings aren't that good, but dude, the fact that, and this is not a slight, the fact that the Lions were the favorites against the Vikings the other week, and the Vikings had the record that they had, they're fraudulent.
Yeah.
And Vegas knows that they're fraudulent. When Vegas knows that you're fraudulent, you're fraudulent.
And it was a bad look for them, and the way they lost as well was just like, come on, guys. Like, when you've been handed that, and you're like, well, we can show them. Like, don't do that. It was really, really bad. Practice squad moves. Tom Kennedy has been re-signed to the practice squad. We were debating last week whether he was actually going to come back. He has. QB3 has now been replaced. Today we re-signed Stephen Montez. He's the dual threat quarterback we had on the practice squad for most of last season. So down the stretch, when we've got Justin Fields to face, we may be a little bit more prepared than we were the first time round. And finally, the Pro Bowl has been announced, and center Frank Ragnow is the only Lion who made it. He was the consensus center 2 for the NFC. It's his second go at the Pro Bowl. There are 9 other Lions who are alternates. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell are first alternates. Jared Goff is third. Jonah Jackson, Jamal Williams, Jason Kabinda, Khalif Raymond are fourth alternates, and Taylor Decker and Aiden Hutchinson fifth alternates. And your reaction to the Pro Bowl stuff?
Yeah, well, it is what it is now, isn't it? Everyone gets snubbed every year. I mean, for Frank, it's great. He's been playing with like a, messed up foot all season, and he's still like barely given up anything. You know what Frank's like? He's the Iron Man of this team, and I think they said today he's already said he's going to need surgery when the season's done. That's how bad this potentially is, and he's still playing at Pro Bowl caliber through it. So great for him. I don't know how Amon-Ra's not in, especially when you put him up against Scary Terry, because Amon-Ra's more than just a wide receiver. He's a running back. He's a motion guy. He's a blocker. All facets of the game he's really good at. Now, Terry might be a better receiver, but he doesn't have anywhere near all the other traits that Amon-Ra does. So I would like to see the entire package been taken into account when picking the Pro Bowl, but I think it's been purely done on a receiver basis. But even then, he's got more touchdowns. He's got more yards. So I don't get it. But
doesn't the fans vote it now?
It's a third. Fans vote is worth a third.
It's still a third?
Points. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, media types and, higher ups still don't like us very much. So I think when it comes to centers, just people are oblivious to who centers are. So, oh yeah, we know Frank will pick him, but yeah, it is what it is. We know this team is good.
How about
the Panthers only got 1, 2.
I was about to say the Panthers. So Brian Burns gets in as a starter. I know that the fans are up in arms about JC Horn not making it.
You know who I'm up in arms about not making it? It ain't JC Horn, it's Deontay Brown. I think Deontay Brown has been playing freaking at an all-pro level all season, guys. Yeah. And I think it's a travesty that he did not get in. But defensive tackles are so hard to figure out. And then when you got the fans being the third to vote, it comes down to the popularity of the team. So when you take that into account, because there's still a third of the vote, right? And so you're going to have, like Geno Smith made the Pro Bowl, and I think Geno deserved to go. But, you still have Seattle and their rabid fan base. So when you take the fan base into account, it makes it very difficult for certain positions to get in.
Yeah, definitely. And then certain positions only get 2, or 1. There was only 1 free safety. I mean,
Yeah.
there are 32 free safeties in the league, if not more. So, trying to get 1 in is just you're on a hiding to absolutely nothing. But there we go. That's the Pro Bowl. We're going to move straight on those to the lines at Panthers preview. Panthers come in 5-9. They are only 1 game back in the NFC South. So as we're talking about, they are very much in the hunt and have a huge amount to play for. Pro Football Reference has their expected win total at 5.9. Football Outsiders have it at 4.9. So they are maybe a game under expectation if you buy Pro Football Reference's numbers. Their season so far has gone like this. A loss versus Cleveland, a loss at the Giants, winning against New Orleans, a loss at versus Arizona, loss versus San Francisco, loss at the Rams, and then things started to turn around a little bit. Win against Tampa Bay, blowout, 21-3. Losing against Atlanta and Cincinnati, but then wins against Atlanta, Denver, Seattle down the stretch, as well as losses to Baltimore and Pittsburgh in there. Dave, I guess the first question that really occurs is, Wilks has come in after sacking the previous head coach that we shall not name on this show because we don't think he deserves it. So Ash, one of our writers, had a really good question, which was basically, given the turnaround that you guys have had since he's come on, do you think he's done enough to earn an interview for the head coaching role in the offseason?
I honestly think he's done enough. He's done enough to earn the job, considering the circumstances. I don't think, like, my partner doesn't completely agree with me. I think my partner wants to wait until the end of the season and assess. I think he's rooting for him, but I think my partner thinks he wants to see what happens at the end. But that being said, I think he's done enough, considering the circumstances. People forget when he took over this job. He took over this job in the middle of the week. He lost to the Rams, but he took over the job in the middle of the week. Then he came back the following week and destroyed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Destroyed them. That was the first home. That was one of the first. We rarely win at home. Matt Rule, and I'll name him because I don't care at this point, because he was out here trying to take credit for the wins that Wilkes got. Matt Rule never won more than 2 games at home his entire career in the season as the Panthers head coach. And Wilkes has already exceeded that without all the games.
Yeah.
So from that, like, his first home loss just happened last week against Pittsburgh. So
exceptional.
So like for me, that alone, I'm like, from between that and there were, at the beginning, there were certain things I wanted to see. I wanted to see, can he win on the road? Can he do halftime adjustments? Can he do like certain things that the other guy couldn't do? And he's shown me that. Now I know that a portion of the fan base feels like we should go ahead and interview a bunch of guys. But in my head, I'm thinking to myself, do you really want the same owner that brought in Matt Rule to have all these options to go interview all these guys? Do you trust him to make the proper call here? Like, I know the guys that you want to hire. Do you think that this owner is going to do that? So you kind of hope that the Panthers make the playoffs to force his hand, because I think it'll be very difficult for them not to hire him if they win the division and make the playoffs. Because that's something that Tepper has not seen. People forget that.
Talking of Tepper as well, another question Ash had was that he had a reputation initially for being one of the better owners in the league when he bought the team. But in the last couple of years, has that goodwill kind of disappeared a little bit? He's become a bit of a polarizing figure, I think.
I don't know if he had the reputation of being one of the best owners of the team. I think the only reputation he had was being the richest owner of the team, of the league. You don't know what type of owner you have until you see him at the helm, right? So he became the owner the season after we made the playoffs. The last year we made the playoffs. He hasn't had a winning season since. So we didn't know what he was. There were some things that he did do that the fan base was happy with. But there are also some things that he hasn't done. He has done that the fan base is not happy with. So there's a touch and go when it comes to that. And the fact that the team hasn't won since he's been the owner. He hasn't had a winning record. And at this pace, and we're not going to have a winning record this year either, but at least we'll have a shot to win the division. So, you got to take the good with the bad there. But with that being said, I think if Tepper gives the GM and the coaches the opportunity to be GM and coaches, I think we could do something here. But I don't think that necessarily happened yet. But we'll
And
see.
you look like you had a question.
I was just about to say, how much in your opinion do you reckon that Rule was holding this team back? Because I don't like this Panthers team, not because they're bad, but because I think they're a lot better than their record suggests it, especially when we're coming into town this week. People look and go, oh, they were maybe going for the first pick this year, but you invested in an entire draft in defense just a couple of years ago. The receivers are good. I like the running backs, despite, maybe not being the best in the league, but I feel like this team's a lot better than 5-8. Is this Rule who was really just holding them back, and now you're starting to see how good this team can be since he's gone?
Prior to the season, on our show, we typically do predictions, and we decide what their records are going to be. And I said two things during that prediction. The first thing I said was they hired Steve Wilkson as a secondaries coach during the offseason. And the first thing I said was, that's your interim head coach when they make the decision to fire Rule. That was the first thing I said. The second thing I said was, this team is only going to go as far as the coaching staff does. So coaching is going to be the factor. Talent-wise, we can compete with anybody. I truly believe that. We can compete with anybody. But coaching has held this team back. Rule is not good at halftime adjustments. If you looked at last season in the third quarter, we were the worst team in the NFL in the third quarter. We were outscored by an exorbitant amount of points in the third quarter. There were multiple third quarters where we didn't score a single point. We just was not good coming out of the half. So if we didn't have a lead, a good lead going into the third quarter, I knew we were going to lose. Like, I knew the game was over if the score was tied or we were losing. Like, it was pretty much done going into halftime. So I think coaching was a big factor. I think he's a nice guy. I just think he wasn't an NFL head coach, and that's fine. He was a college coach, and I felt, when they made the decision to fire Rivera, I said, I don't want a college coach. It had nothing to do with Matt Rule. It had everything to do that he was a college coach. I think people thought I hated Rule, the person. No, I hated the fact that he was a college coach. I didn't want a college coach. And so people thought, you're not giving a fair shake. And I'm like, no. I didn't want a college coach. And when this ride ends, you guys are going to say that I was right. But I'm not going to get, you were right, Dave. And I don't need it. Just enjoy this ride. And then when we fire him, and then we get a NFL coach in there, and you wonder what the hell's going on, we get rid of Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, all of a sudden we're winning these games, and Christian McCaffrey's doing Christian McCaffrey things in San Francisco, and they've already clinched their division. And now you're wondering what was the difference. And I'm like, we have a head coach, we have an NFL head coach, we have a coach.
Well, that happened when McCaffrey went down and Mike Davis came in a few years ago. There was almost no drop-off in production. In fact, I think the team even did better without McCaffrey for a little while, at least in terms of numbers.
Numbers, yeah. But I mean, there was not a drop-off in numbers, but we didn't win.
No, that's fair.
We didn't win. And that's the thing. Like, we didn't win. And that's always been the dilemma. And I think part of the thing that happened with Rule 2, Rule was trying to clean this up on his little media run before he got the Nebraska job, and after he got the Nebraska job too. He had final personnel say. He had final call on every personnel decision in this deal. He can say he didn't, but he absolutely did. So I have to give him credit for drafting Deontay Brown. But I also have to give him credit for trading for Sam Darnold. And I also have to give him credit for releasing Cam, for signing Teddy Bridgewater, for letting Teddy Bridgewater go after 1 year after signing him for a 3-year deal, for trading for Sam Darnold, for giving up on Sam Darnold, for trading for Baker Mayfield. And yeah, he gets all that. He gets some of the good things too, for not drafting Justin Fields, for not trading up for Justin Herbert when you had the opportunity to. But you get credit for Deontay Brown because he's a phenomenal player. Mm-hmm. So you get your credit, but you also got to take this heat.
Yeah.
You own it all, bro. You own it all.
Let's talk a bit more about the game in particular. The betting, the Lions are marginal favourites. They're 6-4 on. That's about minus 140, 130 in American money. Panthers are 5-4. Lions, that means, are 2.5 points on the spread favourites. Over under 43.5. Injury report has dropped, I'm pretty sure. Let me refresh it to see if the Lions one is up properly. It's not yet. Completely clean slate for the Panthers. So all the injury worries they had earlier on in the week, they are all clear. So JC Horn in particular, but also CJ Henderson, Miles Hartsfield, Ian Thomas, and Joel, and I'm not going to try and say that surname, Lyle, no, that's Nigerian, and I'm not going to try. That's going to trip me up. But they are all go. For the Lions, we've got the unofficial report from Jeremy Reisman over at POD. He says, not a practice today. Jason Kabinda, Coyote Awashika, and Deshaun Elliott. Looks like Deshaun Elliott might be out for a little while, unfortunately. Our starting strong safety's played so well this year. Back today, though, the centre, Frank Ragnow, he is a go. That was confirmed in a press conference earlier today. And Matt Nelson is also back, everyone's favourite 6th offensive lineman. This game has the potential to be a really interesting one. It's meant to be the coldest game ever played at the Panthers Stadium. Less than freezing, we know that for sure. The Lions have actually had to leave early to go and make the game because they're worried that if they leave it too much later, they might not get through the storm. So if you think this game is going to be a really high-scoring passing game, you may be sorely mistaken. Per Football Outsiders, if the Lions win this game, they are projected to have a 55% playoff probability, only 16% if they lose. For Carolina, they move up to 22% with a win and down to 7% with a loss. So let's see what happens with that. On IR for the Panthers as well, I didn't mention, but Deontay Jackson, Pat Elflein, and Matt Corral are not here. Looking at the projected starters by ESPN, and I'll go through these guys in a bit more detail in a bit. On offense, you just mentioned him, Sam Darnold is now the starter again. At running back, Donta Foreman, but backed up by Chuba Hubbard. Wide receivers, DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, and Shee Smith, as well as Laviska Shenault. Tight end, Tommy Tremble. And in the front five, Ikem Ekwonu, the rookie left tackle, who has had a really, had an iffy start, but he's come on really strong down the stretch. Brady Christensen, Bradley Bozeman, Austin Corbett, and Tyler Motton. Talking about the stats for this offense, they're ranked 28th per PFF, 66.2, and by Football Outsiders, minus 16% is 29th. It is a defense that struggled early, Dave, but you found an identity recently, I think.
Yeah, man. Since Wilkes has taken over, we have absolutely found a defense. We found it. We found an identity on offense too. They've been just basically been trying to play bully ball. Since Wilkes has taken over on both ends of the spectrum. They just want to stop the run and run the ball. That's what they're trying to do. But in doing that, it's reminded that the team's not built to catch up.
You play from in front.
We got to play from up front. If we can't play from in front, then it's going to be a long day. And if we run into a team that's better than us at bully ball, like last week with Pittsburgh, it's going to be a long day for us. Because, as a matter of fact, all the AFC North teams, but that's what they do. They're pretty much the bully ball conference, the bully ball division, because we are 0-4 in that division. And Wilkes lost to 3 of them. So 3 of Wilkes' losses came in the AFC North. So hopefully we can be able to instill bully ball against you guys this Saturday. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day because you guys got some really good receivers and y'all have got some pretty good running backs too. So,
talking about the statistics of this offense, Sam Darnold's played in 3 games so far. Obviously, he got injured for a good amount of this season. 36 completions, 509 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Passer rating 98.6, QBR of 47.2, the PFF grade of 70.9, which is the 4th highest on offense. The running back is the outstanding Donta Foreman. Goes under the radar, but every time I see him play, I think he's a real player. 157 carries, 646 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, PFF grade 69.6. Leading receiver is DJ Moore. Had someone asking the question whether they thought he was a real wide receiver 1, and it's like, you have not watched this team. 51 receptions on 97 targets, 678 yards. That is 13.3 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns. Other good graded players on this offense, Terrace Marshall. He's made something of himself after going absent last year, almost. He has really come on well down the stretch, 71.1 for him. And Austin Corbett, 69.7. Worst grades per PFF on there, Tommy Tremble, 47. Shee Smith, 49.1. Tight end Ian Thomas, 51.8. Robbie Anderson, before he departed, was a 52. In terms of efficiency on third down, 49 conversions on 168 attempts, 29.2% is 30th in the NFL. Fourth downs, much better, 10 of 18, 55.6% is 9th. And in the red zone, 19 touchdowns on 37 trips, 51.4% is 23rd. So they're much better in the red zone than they are on third down, at least. And what have you seen from this offense so far this year?
I think it's as Dave was saying, when the offense is in a situation to succeed where it's good, it's damn good. And I mean, you've got some real good guys on there. I think there's a lot of underrated players on this team. The running back room, I was a big fan of Chubba Hubbard when he was at OK State. I think, you've seen him recently having some really good games. I was watching the Seahawks game they played earlier, played really well in that one. You've got great special teams ability. Raheem Blackshear's there. Back when Virginia Tech were watchable, he was a monster returner in college. I think he's averaging, 27 yards a return this year? He's performing incredibly well. And again, he's a guy who can change the game in your favor. But, we're coming into this real cold weather game, as has been mentioned. Maybe the emphasis is going to be on running the ball a bit more. And this offensive line is set up to run the ball. Icky, I'm an NC State fan, so I love Icky. He has always been a guy who has excelled in the run game. It's what NC State, we do a lot. You've got the right tackle, Moton, probably one of the better right tackles in this league. They're really good. They've got cornerstones to run behind, and they've got a nice, diverse running back room. So I think against us in these conditions this week, I think it's actually a really good offense. I think they're just missing the critical ingredient at quarterback. You saw what the Steelers did. It was just stop the run dead, put Darnold third and long. You can't put a game on Sam Darnold's shoulders. He can't win it on his own. What was it? 21 yards on 16 carries. Darnold can't win a game like that. But, I like what I see. I think there's a lot of underrated guys. I think they've got some top guys on there, and I think they're built and they're set up to win in the situation we're playing in. So we've got to be tough. This Steve Wilkes-led side, like I said, they are playing tough, and that's how we play. But I think they're like us in the style they play. I think they are playing maybe not beyond the expectations, but I think they're playing better than the sum of their parts. Some of the time at the minute, they're just battling hard for their coach. They seem to have a real connect, and that makes a real dangerous side, like you've seen with us. Our players are one with their coach. They've bought into his ethos, the culture he's made. So I think it's going to be a really tough game for us. But the way the defense is playing, especially in the trenches, we are built to have the best chance of withstanding it. So I'm looking forward to the matchup, actually.
It's going to be a good one, man, because here's one thing you got to consider, too, because I know against the Steelers, there's a couple things you got to consider. The big thing that killed us last week against Pittsburgh was the fact that the middle of our line got destroyed. They had their worst game of the season, even when Rule was the coach. They had their worst game by far. From a PFF grade standpoint, their numbers were awful, terrible. We've gone back and forth about our second-year lineman Brady Christensen, whether or not he should be playing tackle or guard. Because at left guard, he has not played that well. That's just the reality of the fact. It's just the facts of life. But he by far had his worst game of the season. And the thing about Sam Darnold, and I always said this when they made the decision to trade for Sam Darnold last year, was this. Sam Darnold can work. And I didn't like the trade, let me be clear. But since you did it, and he's on my squad, I got to roll with it. Sam Darnold can work if you get a man a clean pocket. If you give that man a clean pocket and he's confident that clean pocket is going to be consistent, he can make the throws. Problem is that historically he's never had it. He didn't have it with the Jets. He didn't have it last year with us. The first couple of games we started for us this season was the first time he actually had that. But last week's game was not that at all. So he came back to his old ways. He wasn't trusting what was in front of him. He wasn't trusting his line because he was getting all this pressure up the middle. So he can do it if he gets a consistent pocket. He just didn't get that last week.
I mean,
the
one time he did get it, and the one time he trusted it was the big touchdown to DJ Moore. Busted coverage. He saw it well. He had time to throw it, and he put it on the money.
And that was a big difference. You saw the week before when they played the Seahawks, because they ran the ball better. You open that play action playbook up for Sam Darnold to be able to make more of the throws he does and put him in a more comfortable situation. They pass block better. So, in those two games, they're complete contrasts. You can see where it works well and you can see where it works bad. Like, Seahawks, how not to play against the Panthers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, exactly how you play against them and shut them down. Or that's what I mean. Last week is not an indicator of this Panthers team. They're much better than that, and you've got to be prepared for. Our interior's doing well. No one talks about Commission, how well he does. Aleem gets no love because they're just gritty guys fighting in there. But, I think we match up well. Like I said, it's going to be a slugfest, especially in the cold.
I will get onto the matchup in just a sec, but let me flip over to the defense, and then we talk about how much the matchups could affect this game. But this defense, as Ant mentioned, it went all defense in the draft a couple of years ago, and it's starting to come to fruition. This is one of the stingier defenses in the NFL. Starters per ESPN are Brian Burns, Derek Brown, Matt Ioannidis, Ito Gross-Matos, Shaq Thompson, Damian Wilson, Frankie Louvu, CJ Henderson, Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin, and J.C. Horn. Lots of
I just realized I called Derek Brown Deontay Brown earlier.
It's okay.
Derek Brown. My bad.
Don't worry.
I'm so trash. I got to do better.
You're best off not mentioning the names. There's still a lot of Lions fans pissed that we passed on him.
Yeah, because Deontay Brown was the guy. Yeah, man. Deontay Brown was the one that we should have took Trey Smith. I'm still mad about that one.
Now
he was the lineman from Lions.
All our fans are pissed that we took TJ.
Brown. Yeah, we took TJ. We could have had Brown. No, hang on. Wasn't that Akuda? That was Akuda's draft.
Oh, yeah, it was. My bad.
We took a long snapper. A long snapper.
Oh, no. We know how that feels. Oh, yeah. So this defense, leading tackler is Shaq Thompson, and he's actually had a really good year. 4 passes defended, half a sack, 110 tackles, 65 solo, 8 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 71. And you can see even the games where the Panthers are doing badly, he's flying all over the place, making things happen. Leading sack master is Brian Burns. We heard he made the Pro Bowl. 2 passes defended, a forced fumble, 10.5 sacks in the year. 58 tackles, 31 solo, 14 tackles for a loss, 18 quarterback hits. PFF grade of 63.8. Derek Brown, though, is the real master on this defense, as Dave was saying earlier. 1 interception, 6 passes defended, a sack, 56 tackles, 27 solo, 5 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hits, and the number 1 PFF graded on the team with 80.6. In the secondary, we mentioned J.C. Horn. It was a little bit of a surprise that he didn't manage to make it in. 3 interceptions, 7 passes defended, 47 tackles, 32 of which solo, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit, and a PFF grade of 71. Other good grades in there. Louvu, the linebacker, 78.5. And Corey Littleton, the other linebacker, 71. So all 3 linebackers there listed are above 70. Quite strong in that location. Worst grades on the team is a bit surprising to me, and so I maybe don't necessarily trust this. I'm going to have to ask you, Dave, about this in a second. Jeremy Chin, 44.5, and Gross-Matos, 50.1. But before we get onto that, efficient-wise, the defense, 83 conversions on 191 attempts. That's 43.5%. That's 26th in the NFL. Not many 4th downs against this defense. 4 of 12 is second, but there's not much of a sample size there. And in the red zone, they allow 28 touchdowns on 48 trips, is 58%, and 21st in division. Let's move on to Chin and Gross-Matos, because they are players that I was very high on coming into the draft. I know that Gross-Matos had a bit of a scandal coming into the league, and that's kind of gone away now, but Chin and Gross-Matos have graded badly. Have they had a bad year, or is that PFF just being PFF?
So Rashad actually had the opportunity to, about a year or so ago, to interview somebody from PFF. who actually understood that actually is involved in the grading system. We asked about that, and it boiled down to the position, and it also boiled down to the fact that Chin's just not good in coverage, man. He's not. He's not good in coverage. And that showed. And matter of fact, the last couple of weeks he has not been good. He's cost us a lot of big plays over the past couple of weeks. I think 2 weeks ago, Rashad wasn't able to watch. I think he watched the game, and I talked to him and I said, "Bro, I don't think Chin had a good game," and he was in denial. And then he went back and watched the tape again and saw what I was talking about. And then this week he was at the game and saw that Chin was struggling. But the week before that, it was because I said maybe it was because he was playing out of position because Xavier Woods was out. But this week he couldn't use that. Couldn't use that reasoning. He just wasn't playing well. So it's a concern. I think he plays better when he's in the box, when he's more of a hybrid as a linebacker. But me and him had a debate on whether or not he could go and play linebacker full time. Like, I think he's more of a better linebacker, but it's a matter of whether or not he can play linebacker full time. He's better when he's just in that hybrid position where he roams, so to speak, where he could when he could be a linebacker or he could be a safety versus him being like a full-time safety like he is right now.
Sounds like you're describing someone like Isaiah Simmons or one of those kind of hybrid guys out of the draft. What about the strengths of this defense then? It sounds like that front seven is just legit and actually does do very well at stopping people running the ball.
Yeah, they've gotten better. It's particularly in the interior, but that credit goes to Derek Brown, man. And Brian Burns being able to set up sacks for others too. And sometimes Burns getting his. Me and Rashad has always had the discussion about the fact that we haven't had, it's been a long time that we've had a middle linebacker, not have like a really great middle linebacker. Like, we always talk about Luke Kuechly. Before that, we had John Beeson, Dan Morgan. We've always had like a great middle linebacker within the history of this franchise all the time. So it's just been weird not having that. And it's always been a hole, and it's been missed. But the defense has played, the front seven has played really well considering all the circumstances. And Louvu has been a dog. Frankie Louvu has been playing outstanding all season. Been all over the field. Shaq's had a decent year, but Louvu's been my guy all year. Louvu's been playing well. Burns has been playing great. Derek Brown doesn't have the numbers, but he's doing what he's supposed to do as a physical tackle, and that's wreak havoc, and that's what he does. But I think our secondary, when you talk about J.C. Horn, when J.C. Horn and Deion Jackson was back there, it was freaking outstanding. Outstanding. But now C.J. Henderson's starting to make strides because Henderson wasn't playing that well going into the season. But now he's stepped up. He's playing way better than what he has going into the beginning of the season. And we're very happy that he's healthy because Keith Taylor struggled very, very heavily last Sunday. Basically, all Trubisky did was throw on the side that Keith Taylor was on. So I'm very happy that C.J. Henderson is back.
And what have you seen from this defense?
It's legit. It's really good. And I think it kind of mirrors, we played the Jets last week and, their offense, they've had their struggles, but they've got a defense that keeps them in games, that creates vital turnovers. I mean, Pittsburgh had the ball for what? Nearly a full quarter more than the Panthers last week. I think it was about 14 minutes the time of possession. They had what? A 12.5-minute drive in the third quarter. Like, most of the third quarter, it was just the Steelers driving. And yet, when all was said and done, they were still within one score. That defense was out there. It must have been gassed, to play a full quarter more than your opposition before you even get to the point where you're sort of splitting time with them, and to keep it to just 24 points and one score just shows you how tough they play. And it was, you saw some big plays from the Steelers last week, but for me, I think it was more down to the defense was gassed. They were picking on certain guys. They struggled to stop the run, third quarter, just getting run, and they just got worn down. And it happens sometimes. We've seen it happen to our defense, although it's not been as elite for years now. So, to be just 8 points behind after a game like that shows how good this defense is. You have to put points down on them. You have to shift the ball, put points on, because if you don't, they will keep that offense in the game. And I think the offense is probably better than what the Jets have at the moment in terms of, you group all the positions together, I think it's a better offense. So we might not get the same opportunity that we did against the Jets last week. If we come out and we're sluggish, we may not have the chance to put down one score because you could be a few behind. So you've got to give it respect. But again, I said this about the Jets last week, and the Jets fans were like, no. The offense they're coming up against, ours, is very diverse in how it plays. And to beat an elite defense, you have to be diverse in how you play. Our use of motion, the run game ability. Now we've got JMO back. You've downfield threats. You've a middle of the field threat in Amon Ra. You can do lots. And plus, you've got a play caller who's on fire at the moment. Even coming down to special teams, you've got fake punts in there, say all the use of motion with using 2 running backs in the backfield now. So again, it's going to be a big test for the offense this week. They need to come out a bit more sharper, but their defense is just really good at the end of the day. And again, you're going to have to be prepared for a fight with it because again, time of possession won't win you nothing against them. You've got to get points, and they make it incredibly difficult to take points away from them.
Looking at how this defense sets up, it's notionally a 3-4, but if you think back to the Lions 3-4 last year, it's very, very similar. Normally has 5 people on the line, so it's a 5-2-4 in base, but do transition into nickel quite quickly, though, as well. Seems, at least in the Pittsburgh game, to perhaps struggle against the screen game a little bit. I don't know whether that's a feature that Dave has seen throughout the season, but I'll come to that in a sec. There was a lot of quarterback sneaks in this game from Pittsburgh as well. 3rd and 1, 3.5 yard, and Carolina just couldn't stop it whatsoever. They were very effective in the run game between the tackles. They struggled to get pressure on pass plays, but Pittsburgh really ran the ball more often than not. And as Ant alluded to with that really long drive, the longest drive in the game was a 21-play touchdown drive from Pittsburgh, which is just unbelievable. The reason it was 21 plays is because they set themselves back with personal foul penalties, but they continued to be 1st and 10. So they got the first down, 50-yard penalties, so you actually start further back than where you were, but you get another 3, which doesn't really seem fair. Like, you could just kill an entire game that way if you wanted to. What I saw from this defense,
or you could just stop them and not worry about this.
Yeah, if only. And
you don't understand how frustrated I was watching that game, man.
Oh no,
especially going into that.
They were 12 for 16 on 3rd downs, the Steelers were. So the 3rd down defense wasn't there. And this is Steelers. This is a Matt Canada offense who's not known for being very diverse. So it's like, yeah, I agree with Dave. You've got to get off the field. And how many times, Matt, have we screamed at our team for not getting off the field in 3rd down situations?
This is what I was about to say. Lions fans know what it is like to go up against Mitchell Trubisky. And Trubisky did Trubisky things. When he dropped back, he had a little bit of time to throw. He only threw about 10 yards in the air, if not less. But every time he did it, it was roughly where it was meant to be. He didn't have a huge amount of pressure, and he just moved the ball when he had to. When the running game did break down, when the Panthers did force him into 3rd downs, Trubisky was there to just surgically pull them apart, and it was just a shame. I hated watching it because I really dislike Mitchell Trubisky. He is an absolute fraud of a quarterback, but that little pocket passer who has a little bit of mobility, can just sidestep a little bit, can kill you if you don't force him into situations that he's not comfortable, and that it really, really happened that way. Just on the quick passes and the screens and all of that stuff, that was a real feature of the Pittsburgh offense. Is that something that you guys struggle against generally, or was that just a feature of that game?
No, we tend to struggle with it. Occasionally we'll catch it, but we tend to struggle with it occasionally for sure. Yeah. Hence why I'm leaning towards playing Swift, because Swift tends to get a lot of targets. And if for some reason you guys don't want to, and you guys tend to not throw the ball to Jamal Williams, so at least I know if there's gonna be screens, they're gonna go to Swift.
100%. Or well, Justin Jackson's got a load of those as well.
Yeah, that's the other wrinkle I'm worried about right now, because he showed up all of a sudden, making this a 3-headed situation.
He has. On the offense, it seemed like you guys use a heck of a lot of motion. Plenty of screens and play action passes there. I think partly this is maybe to get Darnold back in the groove of things, give him some easy passes to kind of warm him back into the offense, because he hasn't been in the team that long. And to start with, he was quite effective in the air, I thought, in this game. Terrace Marshall came alive, beating zone coverage, looked quite good doing that. In the coverage, they said that the Panthers are the worst team in the league in 3rd and long, which I thought was an interesting little tidbit. 3rd and 7 and longer, and they've been really, really poor.
Oh, yeah.
The throw to DJ Moore, as I mentioned earlier, was excellent, though. Like, that was just a really nice throw, good recognition. But the O-line struggled, as he said. The interior didn't do particularly well against the Pittsburgh interior defensive line. Wide receivers seemed to struggle getting free in coverage, and Darnold can't feel pressure. But also, play calling, late on in the game, quarterback draw on 3rd and 8. I'm sorry, I have to mention this play, because what the hell was that? Like, Panthers 2 scores down late in the game, Darnold struggling to do much, not exactly the most mobile quarterback in the world. In the red zone, quarterback draw on 3rd and 8. Dave, I don't see it, mate.
Look, listen, they were ready to settle for the field goal. That's what they do. They do that sometimes. That was like classic Fox ball. We used to call that Fox ball. When John Fox was the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, whenever we had like a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6, we would always say, draw play, and then we would get the draw play. And that's what we get. We just get the run, we get the draw play. And that's what it was. And like the fan base would hate it. The sometimes the quarterback would hate it. But that's what it was, man. Jake Delhomme would just draw play. And that was that.
We do a heck of a lot of draws on 3rd and long, don't we? And we like the draw play on 3rd and long. At least, well, the team does. You don't. You hate it.
Yeah, because we're rubbish at it. You know, don't do this to me.
I remember one time, I'll never forget this. The first NFL playoff game I went to was the Carolina Panthers versus the New York Giants at Giant Stadium, back with the old Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And it was like 3rd and 20 or 3rd and 15. It was 3rd and long, you know. And at this point, we were playing Nick Goings. He was our starting running back at this point because we were injured. It was 2005. It was 05, the 2005 season. Eli Manning's first playoff game. And so they traditional Fox ball way, draw play. And and it was a freaking hole this wide. Nick Goins ran right through it for like 23 yards. and all the Giants fans are just staring at me in disgust. And I'm like I said at the beginning of the game, y'all can't even name y'all starting linebackers. Y'all couldn't even stop 3rd and long. We shut them out in Eli Manning's first playoff game. So, you know, sometimes the draw play works. Sometimes.
Yeah, but the fact that I have to get told about it when we have a successful one shows you how little it works. He goes out his way to go, oh, look, that was a successful screenplay. It's like completely oblivious to the previous 20 that haven't worked.
I think we're good for one good one that'll work a game. One good one will work per game.
Yeah,
Maybe
and that's
one.
it. And that's it. As soon as you do a good one, then just cut it out for the rest of the game. It's like
we just do it every single time. We just do it every single time to just mess up your 3rd down conversion percentage.
I would have even less hair than I do now if we did that, because I would pull what little is left and I would surgically remove the lot of it if we did that.
Bro, never fails. I'll give Rivera that much credit. It wasn't always a draw play on 3rd down. That was so refreshing when Ron Rivera was 3rd down. Sometimes he would do a draw, but there were times that he would actually try to pass the ball. I will give Ron Rivera that credit. Even before he turned into Riverboat Ron, he would try to throw the ball and try to get a 1st down. But not John Fox. Not Fox ball. No, sir.
Let's turn to the matchups and how these two teams then interact. So we've gone through the offense and the defense for Carolina. Ant's alluded a bit to the matchups and how this works. And for me, I've picked out the biggest matchup in this game being the Carolina offensive line and the run game in particular against the Lions defensive line. The Carolina team, as we've heard, like to play bully ball. And if that works, the game is over. So the biggest thing for the Lions coming into this game is they have to stand up to the run. And in the last few weeks, the Lions have been very stout in this department. So against Minnesota, the Jets, Jacksonville, and the Giants in the last 5 weeks, they have not conceded 100 yards rushing. In some of those, less than 30 yards total. The only team that they did concede 100 yards to was Buffalo in that stretch, and Josh Allen destroyed us on the ground. We are not good against rushing quarterbacks. Against running backs, we can do it fine. And Carolina only managed, as we talked about, 21 yards rushing against Pittsburgh, but of course that defensive line is very, very good. Lads, can the Carolina offensive line do the business against Detroit's defensive line that has done very well in this department recently?
I mean, it's tough because, our D-line is still evolving. It's still very young for the most part. Most of the starters on there are first or second year rookies, and then you've got Kamish, who was cut by the Titans, was it? We picked up on through free agency from the Titans when they left. So it's a very good group, but you are coming up against a very good line, and you have to give it respect. I say the tackles are really good when it comes to the run game, both of them. It's tough, but going on recent figures, people thought Bartley would tear us up. He did not. People thought Cook would tear us up. He did not. People thought that Etienne would tear us up. He did not. What was it? Second play of the game, we forced a fumble out of him, and he never recovered after that. So I would like to think we could, but they are going to have to play high quality football again because this line can beat them. So I think it's going to be tough. I kind of feel like they're going to run the ball pretty good on us, but I also feel like we're going to get some success there as well. I can see it being a 50-50 split, to be fair. I don't see us dominating it. I just don't.
What do you think, Dave? Can the Lions' defensive line get this done? Because it's what you do.
I don't want them to. Because if they do, but then it's going to be a matter of whether, because I've said this all season when it comes to Carolina's offensive line. I think we should start running the ball to the outside the tackles more. We haven't done it enough this year. Can we run it inside? Yes. But I think our weakness of the offensive line is inside. I think we need to be running this thing behind Equano and running it behind Moton. I really believe that. We shouldn't be running it. We shouldn't be running this thing in our inside because I feel like the guys that are inside on the offensive line, they're better at pass blocking than they are at run blocking. I've always felt that way. So, because I think we have better run blockers on our bench, and we have some packages where we put in 7 offensive linemen. So we have ways to put a concerted effort to run the football. Like we'll bring in Cade Mays, who's an offensive lineman, in at fullback to put the emphasis on how much we really want to run the football. So it's going to get interesting to see what type of schemes that we're going to do and what type of packages that we're going to pull in this game, because Sam Darnold can make the proper passes if you give him time. Like he hasn't had a turnover so far this season, which is impressive in itself for Sam Darnold. This is not something you guys normally see. That's how you know the world is coming to an end, right? So, he hasn't really turned the ball over that much. He's been playing pretty well since Steve Wilkes has taken over, to the point where PJ Walker, we haven't seen PJ Walker back yet because he trusts Sam Darnold enough to not go back to PJ. Because I thought PJ would compete a job for the remainder of the season when he beat out Baker. So
let's talk about Darnold a bit more then, because when I first watched the game last week, obviously it was a game that you lost, and in some ways Pittsburgh really dominated. And yet I'm looking at the way that they're working Darnold back into this with the strong offensive line and running the ball first. It's probably the best offensive line he's had in his career, I would say.
Absolutely.
So far. And
not even close.
Running the ball first like this and getting into the play-action game and scheming up short passes for him seems to work quite well to his strengths, gets him in the rhythm of things. At least at the very start of this game, I thought, this is a passable NFL quarterback. Like, this is better than I've seen from him at the end of his Jets career. It seemed like the arrow was very much up for Sam Darnold, for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to brace the Panthers fan base for the fact that we're going to resign Sam Darnold. Because here's the reality of our situation going into 2023. As of right now, the only quarterback that's going to be under contract in 2023 is Matt Corral. Matt Corral has a Liz Frank injury, ladies and gentlemen. So, we're going to have to sign one of these guys. And even if we draft a quarterback, still going to have to sign either PJ Walker or Sam Darnold to be on this roster. That's just the reality of it.
I was going to ask, while we're talking about QBs, there seems to have been complete radio silence on Corral, and a lot of Panthers fans saying it's a draft a QB, but I mean, he's one of the toughest quarterbacks coming out of college. He's mobile. He's kind of the system you need. Is there no confidence there that he's the future at all? Is he just one and done, or is there belief there that he can be the starter over time?
Let's flash back to 2010 in Carolina Panthers history. In 2010, prior to the NFL draft, a lot of folks thought that the number one quarterback in that draft was Sam Bradford, and the number two quarterback in that draft was Jimmy Clausen. Sam Bradford went number one overall. Jimmy Clausen went to the second round to us. John Fox was the head coach of Carolina at the time. He did not get an extension for two reasons. One, Jerry Richardson just did not want to give him an extension. Two, they had to collect the bargaining agreement. So Jerry Richardson was very involved in the negotiations, and he was trying to clean his books up. So he was part of the CBA stuff. So he was trying to clean the books up. So he was trying to reduce the amount of salaries of certain things. So he didn't want to extend a head coach that's been to a Super Bowl. We just bring a new coach in. So season goes along. Panthers went 2-14. I still think to this day the worst team that we've ever had, even though we had a 1-15 team in 2001. The 2-14 team was worse, especially from an offensive standpoint. By far, the worst team. Matt Moore was the starter. Jimmy Clausen got to play. He was terrible. Had a number one overall pick. A lot of folks was in the suck for luck. Andrew Luck decided to go back to college. He ended up he went back to college. Then the debate was Cam Newton or Blaine Gabbert. They hired Ron Rivera as the head coach. A lot of folks was trying to push Blaine Gabbert, Ron Rivera, and they did a whole article on why Ron Rivera pushed for Cam Newton, by the way. I think SI did a whole article about why they ended up with Cam, because Ron Rivera kept asking why the hell not go with Cam. And they ended up going with Cam Newton, and we never saw Jimmy Clausen again. This might happen to Matt Corral.
Oh no.
But that's what can happen. Like, so these are the things that happen. So when we drafted Matt Corral, did I have faith that we might actually get to see this kid? Absolutely. But it also is on what happens with the head coach. So you got a head coach who's coming into the third year of a 7-year deal that he shouldn't have gotten in the first place. He gets this quarterback that he gets to draft in the third round, I believe he got drafted. I think it was the third round. He got drafted in the third round. You draft this kid in the third round. He has so much potential. And then you make the decision to fire this guy. Wilkes is the interim coach. And I'm pretty sure Wilkes is going to give Corral a fair shake if he recovers from his injury. He's going to probably get an opportunity to compete. But if somebody outside of the organization currently gets hired to be the head coach, we might not see Corral. He might get Josh Rosen or Jimmy Clausen. He's done, which sucks for him. And I said that after the draft because of the circumstances of the coach.
I just see him as such a scheme fit for you guys. I think Ant was kind of alluding to that before, but he, is very much an RPO-heavy quarterback, and that, only works well with a really strong run game, and that's your identity. And with the weapons that you guys have got on the outside, I think that Corral can do that. I mean, he was a very accurate passer, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a very good passer at college level. So
and it's tough. He took so many hits. He played in the bowl game when he really shouldn't have messed his. That's why he went so far down in the draft. He messed his ankle up in the bowl game. But I thought he would do well as well. But obviously the injury, and as Dave said, the coaching changes. If he banjacks that, but that might be somebody else's benefit because there's still something there for him. There was a reason why he got a lot of first round talk.
They said the last time they checked on him, I guess he was still in crutches, which is not always. It was not always a good sign after Liz Frank. But we'll see. I mean, I don't like. I hope that he's gonna. I hope he gets an opportunity, but I think his best shot to get an opportunity is if Wilkes is still the head coach. Like I think because I truly believe that if they make the decision to move on from Wilkes, after this season, that the Panthers are gonna hire their first offensive-minded coach in franchise history because we've never hired an offensive-minded coach. This will be the first. But I want to get into something because somebody asked a question about how I felt about the quarterback carousel since Matt Rule took over. My thing is this: when they made the decision to cut Cam, I didn't agree with it. I understood it. If you had a plan, looked like they had a plan. They said, "All right, we're going to sign Teddy Bridgewater for 3 years." So my thought was, all right, you're going to sign Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to be the bridge quarterback. He's going to be the bridge. You'll probably draft a, depending what your record is. If the opportunity presents itself, you draft a quarterback the second year. The second year, he sits behind Teddy. And then the third year, they compete. Whoever wins. And then you can potentially release Teddy that final year if he doesn't want to be the backup. And I'm rolling. Then you have somebody groomed. That works. So then at that point, if Justin Fields is there or Mac Jones or somebody, cool. But then you decide, all right, Teddy 0-8 on final drives. I want him out of here. Okay, so you get him out of here. Besides the fact he had one of the worst defense, he had the worst defense in the NFL. The offensive line was terrible. We have so many pieces that we need to fix. So you get Teddy out of here. You bring in Sam Darnold. I never was a fan of Sam Darnold. Didn't think Sam Darnold was that good. Felt like he needed an offensive line. We didn't have one. So he's going to pretty much do the same thing he did in New York. Lo and behold, that's exactly what he did, right? So then, of course, now Matt Rule's 5-11, 5-12. He's in a panic. What do? Instead of fixing the offensive line, you trade for another quarterback. So when they traded for Baker, I said, so now you're going to trade for Baker Mayfield, and you're going to put him in a worse situation than what he already was in Cleveland. And you expect better results. This is not going to work. And it didn't work to the point where we released him mid-season. And he did that comeback game in LA, and everybody's like, maybe we should have kept him. No, maybe we shouldn't, because it obviously wasn't working. If you wanted a number one pick, you could have kept him. Yeah, maybe we should have kept him if you wanted to tank the season. But so my opinion of it all is just, I think between Matt Rule and the owner, we just didn't lack the patience to like have a plan and like let the plan run with it. There was so much of a panic to win instead of a plan to execute.
See, I like hearing this because we had a big, we do all our draft things going up into the draft last year, and everyone on this panel was convinced, oh, they're going quarterback again, they're going quarterback. I'm like, no, you've got to fix the offensive line first. Because like you said, guys have come there, they've not had the chance to be able to do it. And lo and behold, they went after Ricky. And I was like, yeah, I feel just right. You've got to fix it first before you get your quarterback in. Because, I mean, you see what happens with Jared Goff here. People say he's a mid quarterback, but look how well he's playing because he's anchored behind an offensive line, which is keeping him completely and utterly protected. It's what you got to do first before you get your quarterback. So it's kind of nice to hear that Panthers fans sort of agreed with that view, because I didn't know whether I was talking out there or not.
Well, it's a very contentious argument on the fan base right now, because there's a lot of folks in the fan base that feels like we should be tanking right now. That feels like that we should be trying to lose as many games as possible. And I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of players on the team, a lot of players that were formerly on this team. And let me tell you guys something, man. That ain't how they're built. They're not here. They're not here to lose for y'all. They're here to win. So they're gonna play their behinds off to try to win as many games as possible. And so they're not interested in trying to be the number one overall pick. And I'll never forget a story that Mike Tomlin said when he first met Chase Young prior to the draft that Chase Young was drafted. I think Chase was like, he was number 2 or number 1 overall or something like that year. He was in the top 5 that Chase Young year when he got drafted.
Yeah, 2, yeah.
And yeah, so Mike Tomlin met Chase Young and was watching Chase Young practice. He walked up to Chase Young and he was like, "Hi, I'm Mike Tomlin. I hope I never get to the point that I have the ability to draft you." And he walked away.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had
that
the
is
same.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
we had the same. Sorry, go on.
So, no, you got it, man.
I was just about to say, at 1-6, when we won our second game, people were like, "No, we've lost the first overall pick. What are you doing?" But look what winning does to a team. A month later, we're now 500. We have a great opportunity to get into the playoffs and maybe win a game for the first time in forever. And it's like, that's what happens with winning. This whole tanking stuff, let's say players didn't believe in it. Players believed in Dan Campbell, wanted to go all the way there. So, yeah, I agree. It's the same with the Panthers. And I think you've got to really appreciate the job Wilkes has done. I mean, to be jettisoned into that situation, the fans are not happy with Rule. Everything's going up. They're not happy with the owner. People are saying first overall pick to get 4 wins there. I mean, that'll be better for your team in the long run because you've got a lot of youngsters. You've got a lot of rookies in there. You've still got a lot of that all defense draft class there. So it's not like it's an aging team which needs to be torn down. Young guys, when they win football games, become confident and have a better team because of it. We are no better an example than that.
Well, my thing has always been this. This is how I tell the tankers. This is how I destroy the tankers, right? I say, all right, you want a tank? Then let's tank. This was before the trade deadline. I said, let's trade everybody. I want to trade CMC. I want to trade Brian Burns. I want to trade Derek Brown. I want to trade Dante Jackson. I want to trade DJ Moore. I want to trade everybody. Trade the whole team. I want everybody gone. It was like, no, you can't do that. I was like, what do you trade? Shaq, trade them all. Trade JC Horn, all of them. Trade them all. Like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, that's what tanking is, ladies and gentlemen. If you are about that life, that's what that is. You're trading everybody to get that number 1 overall pick. That's what you're doing. So no, I do not want to tank. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Well, the thing is, you end up with Trevor Lawrence, and then you don't put anything around him, and he goes on to have a season that has people questioning whether he is really that good. And then suddenly, when they do spend money and put stuff around him, suddenly he looks actually quite good. And people are like, oh, well, maybe he's just warming up to his second season. And it's like, or maybe he was just supported as a quarterback, because even if they are a generational talent, they still need help. Even Patrick Mahomes needs help. Mahomes is one of the best at not doing it with help, but even he can get shut out every now and again. You look at what happened in the Super Bowl. He can run for 200 yards behind that line, but they need to invest.
All I'm gonna say is this: Justin Fields, prior to his injury, was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football. Statistically, he's been balling out of his mind. How many wins does the Bears have since he's been balling out of his mind?
Oh, don't. We have to deal with them every week. They've crowned him as God Almighty already, and it's like he's had 2 200-yard passing games this season, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, most fumbles in the league. It's like he's done nothing.
But it's not on Fields, though, is it? Fields is a legit quarterback with no help. But the point is that Fields is actually quite good, but unless you invest and put stuff around him, he's still not going to be a good quarterback because it's not on him.
He's won 1 game. That man has won 1 game since he's figured it out this year against the Patriots. He's won 1 game. Because he didn't win last week, right? Unless I'm tripping. He didn't win last week, did he?
No.
Yeah.
No, they could have beaten the Eagles. They could have. They
could have beaten a lot of people. That's the point. But he doesn't have help. He doesn't have help. And that's my point. He hasn't. The last time the Bears have won a game. When is the last time the Bears have won a game? The last time the Bears have won a game has been against the Patriots, October 24th.
Yeah.
He's been balling out of his mind since then.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, and it still doesn't end up in wins because the rest of the team is bad. They're going to be a really interesting team next year.
They're gonna get a top pick too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're near the top of the draft, aren't they?
They are.
And it'll be a defensive one. They won't help him with that number 2 overall pick.
Nor should they. The talent isn't there at number 2 overall on the offense. But anyway, we're getting away from this, and I want to just bring it back a little bit and talk about another matchup for this game because we haven't. Sorry.
We're gonna talk about your franchise later because I want to talk about your Lions. There might be some things you don't know about the Lions, man.
So let's just finally, in terms of matchups, talk about the Lions offense against the Panthers defense, because that front 7 is good, that secondary is feisty. The Lions have shown the ability at some point in the season to run it really well, especially in the first half of the year, to pass it really well in this second half of the year. The Lions can seem to beat teams in the way that they need to, but the Panthers seem to be pretty strong all the way around on that defense. If they turn up, this could be really difficult for the Lions. Dave, do you think that the Panthers defense comes up on top in this one? I mean, Goff did not have a great game passing the ball last week against the Jets, and as Ant said before, I see similarities between the Jets and Panthers defense too. I kind of feel like the Lions are going to go a bit into their shell and try and run the ball just as much as you guys do to keep the defense off the field. So I see it as that sort of bruising battle with the Lions trying to run the ball, and the guy that can maybe get that long pass once is going to maybe win the game to kind of break people a little bit with a long throw. What do you think?
Well, I know whoever JC Horn's going to be on, they're not going to do much. So it's about what's going to happen with your other receiver. And I also know that I think they're going to probably have a very strong dose of Jamal Williams, which scares me about Swift this week, because I think Jamal Williams tend to be the more physical running back. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're going to need to do to counteract the Panthers defense. You're going to have to be a lot more. You're going to have to try to out-physical us in the front if you're going to have a shot against us. If you try to have finesse, I think we're definitely going to win that battle when it comes to that. So it's going to be interesting to see. That's why I said your screen passes might be the move, because we tend to struggle with that a little bit. But it'll be interesting, man. We're gonna try to stop the run by all means necessary from that standpoint. But I think hopefully CJ Henderson's not that rusty, because CJ Henderson has improved, but he can be beat. And I anticipate Goff is going to pick on him. I really do. I think they're going to pick on him and Chin. So,
I mean, again, the Steelers showed how to do it last week. You've got to be very aggressive and very nasty up front. And one thing they did well is they mixed around Harris and Warren very well, sort of rotating them in and out, keeping them fresh, keeping them running hard, because they're both two very physical guys, and I think we're going to kind of have to do the same with Jamal and Swift this week. I think this game sets up perfectly for Jamal. He is the heavy yardage guy, the not flash guy who goes in there and gets the hard, gritty yards. I think we're going to need a lot of hard, gritty yards this week. But Swift recently has been seeming more like himself again. I think now the injury worries are behind him. His confidence is back a bit. So I think, yes, you've got to rotate them and keep them fresh and keep them going. We've got Nelson back, so we've got our sixth lineman back. We have the ability to run the ball successfully. We're one of the best teams at it on our day. We don't do it consistently, but they can run block incredibly well. So I think we can, but like Dave said, it's predicated on us getting this run game going. I'm seeing us struggling if we put it on Goff, just like was done with Geno. With Geno, when they put Geno under pressure, he started throwing errant balls and they were getting picks off it. And I think they converted both picks into touchdowns, if I remember rightly. You can't be giving turnovers away like that and giving them free possessions. So yeah, I would rather we take the batter it down, heavy gung-ho approach. And the weather may kind of force us to do so. So we'll see. But again, it's at both sides of the ball. This is trench warfare, this one is, and they've invested well in their trenches like we have. So it's hard to call for me. I'm not going to look down on this Panthers team at all. People see it was an easy. I think this is the toughest game we got left. I genuinely think it's the toughest game we got left, because I know what the Bears are, which is a bag of rubbish, and I know what the Packers are, and that's not much better. These guys are a very talented team whose record belies the facts, and they are the toughest teams to beat, especially when you're on their ground, you're in inclement weather. So we can do it. Whether we can or not, I don't know. We are on a great run of form at the minute, and the team is very confident and they believe in themselves. So that, for me, might just swing it a little bit in our favor. You saw last week against the Jets, we didn't play well, but we ground out a win. We found a way to win when it mattered the most. We've blown teams out. We're finding ways to win games differently, whether it's put the hammer down on someone or whether it's clutch moments come from behind, etc. And they're on a wave of momentum, and momentum exists, despite what Reisman might say. Momentum exists, and I think we're riding a wave with it, and I think that might just push us over. Might.
The big thing for me, for Carolina's side of the fence, is that they're angry about what happened at home last Sunday.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I got to give Wilkes credit for, man, the thing that Rule never had as a head coach was the pulse of his players. Wilkes has the pulse of his players. He knows how to talk to his guys. When he had that bad game and he said, we need our stars to play like stars, and then they showed up and played out of their minds the following week. So he knows how to motivate these guys. And he doesn't have to yell at them. He just does his normal growls and talks and does what he does. He just walks around with it, just the swagger that he has. And he just coaches.
Yeah. And that's why I think they're so dangerous, because we know that. We know what that can do. Dan Campbell's exactly the same. You know, when the players buy into the culture, they perform incredibly hard. I mean, when we were 1-6, did they stop? No, they didn't. They kept grinding and they found a way to do it. And I feel like the Panthers are doing the same for Wilkes. I feel like, you know, he is sort of their guy. He is the player's guy. And if they play hard for him, he'll respond positively. And that's dangerous. That's real dangerous, because the team will play better than maybe it's meant to in those circumstances. And that's what we're going through at the minute. We are overperforming a lot of expectations right now. So, yeah, no, that worries me. That's what worries me more than anything. It's the head coach. You know, it's just like with ours. I think he's got the team playing incredibly hard, and this is going to be very difficult.
Dave, you mentioned that you might have some questions for us, so I'm interested to see what they might be. I've got one more for you from a listener, and then there might be some others coming in as well. Guys in the chat, if you have any questions, please do get them in.
Time
but Dave.
Yeah, I got time. What you got for me?
No. Okay, so one of the questions from Ash was about quarterback, and I know that you perhaps don't want one at the top of the draft, but you don't have one incoming, as you've talked about, and maybe there is one that you prefer to re-sign. But in terms of picking a quarterback, we've heard that David Tepper might have a preference for someone. I'm sure that you've heard the rumor that he's particularly in love with
Levis.
Someone. Yes, yeah, and Levis is a very polarizing guy. Might be the best quarterback in the draft. Might be Justin Herbert. Equally, might be pick any crap quarterback who has his measurables. Like, there's been plenty of people like him in the draft, but he might come good. You never know. Do you trust your front office to use your first overall pick, if they do pick a quarterback, to pick the right one? Have you got any trust there at all? Or do you think you might even try and move up? Like, let's assume that you guys end up at 5 wins. You're picking at 10 or 9 or 8 or something in that range. Do you see yourself maybe trading up to try and go and get your guy? Like, what do you expect to happen in this draft?
If we're like in the top 10, I see a scenario where we can trade up and get a guy. But I wouldn't be thrilled about it. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be happy about it. And I understand the situation that we're in at the quarterback position. But when it comes to the quarterbacks currently in the draft, and considering the circumstance, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I think we're going to win a division, and I think we're going to make the playoffs. I really do.
I'm with you. I picked the Panthers before the Jets game. I said, this team's going to win the division. You think Tampa Bay is going to win another game? You are absolutely kidding me.
No, they are now. They are, unfortunately, are now because of Arizona.
Have you seen the quarterback schedule? The quarterback schedule he's got to end the season is ridiculous. He's got so lucky.
Tampa?
Yeah, the 3 quarterbacks. I can't remember exactly his schedule.
Yeah, before the injuries piled up, but the only reason why Tampa could potentially lose to Arizona isn't because of the quarterback, though. It's because of the fact that Wirfs is still out, and the fact that Wirfs is still out and Arizona could get to his behind might give the Cardinals a shot to beat those guys. Because Wirfs might not be able to come back until week 18 at the earliest. He's not going to be there for us. He's not going to be there in Arizona. He's not going to be there when he plays us the following week. So he might be back in time for Atlanta.
Okay, I have them losing all 3 games. I know what you're saying about the quarterbacks at Arizona versus Carolina at Atlanta. Not exactly the hardest stretch in terms of quarterbacks, but it's at Arizona. Tampa's one of the worst teams in football in how they're playing on form right now. I pick Arizona in this game, especially at home. Carolina, clearly the better side in that matchup. I like. It's not even because you're here. I would say if
we're gonna be Tampa. We're gonna be Tampa regardless of what
at
happens
home,
this weekend.
going to destroy them, and then they're going to go into week 18 needing to win to get in, or they might not even be in their own hands at that point. But it could be winning in, and if they lose, then you have a shot. And it's at Atlanta, and it's like, sorry, Atlanta might still be in it as well, so they're going to have something to fight for, maybe. And if they're not, well, Ridder's going to want to prove that he can still be the guy going into next season. And they're going to be people playing for contracts there. They're not going to care about draft position. And it's in Atlanta. And that is not an easy place to go. Sorry, I think that they are losing out. So
they could definitely lose 2 or 3. They're going to definitely lose 2 or 3.
Yeah. Or if you beat them again, then you'll have the
if Carolina controls their own destiny, they win out, they win the division and get a home game against Dallas.
Mm-hmm. So there we go.
Because Dallas is going to have the 5 seed. Like, I think that's established. We're going to play whoever wins the NFC South is playing Dallas.
Yeah.
So, which is fine.
Yeah. Well, Dallas.
I think we could beat them personally.
Dallas.
I think we could beat Dallas personally. So
Dallas are not even good. So.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of Dallas. I'm not afraid of Dallas. We've never lost to Dallas in the playoffs, so I'm not afraid of Dallas. And it's Dallas.
Let's not do this.
No.
Let's not do this.
Yeah,
we have lost to Dallas in the playoffs. So.
Oh, that one play, man.
Matter of fact, that might be one of the only wins they've had since they won their Super Bowl, their last Super Bowl. That's like one of the only ones they've had. They don't have that many wins in the playoffs. I'm gonna be honest with you, they don't. I'm not worried about Dallas in the playoffs. They've lost us twice in the playoffs. Like, I'm not worried about Dallas in the playoffs.
An update for the Lions on the injury report. Coyote Awosika, the starting guard, as was a couple of weeks ago, he's out. Jason Kabinda is out. Deshaun Elliott is out. Barnes and Ragnow officially questionable. Ragnow, we've already heard confirmed, will play. Barnes has been out the last 2 weeks, so him being questionable means that he might be back, which would be a real boon to this linebacker core. Dave, you said you had some questions about the Lions for us, so I'm curious.
So how much do you know about Brad Holmes?
I think we would say that we know a fair bit, at least about his Lions career. Rams, that we've done some research, obviously, but you know, it's a long career for him, and we don't know the most, I would say.
Fun fact about Brad Holmes: I went to college with him.
Really?
Wow.
You're not old enough.
I don't know him. I'll be clear. I don't know him. But Brad Holmes is a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University. It's the largest historically Black college in the nation. The band, the Blue and Gold Marching Machine, performed at the first home game at the halftime show. It's not an accident. So he was part of the 1999 North Carolina A&T football team that won the historically Black College and University National Championship that year in 1999. Back then, it was based on the polls. They were the number 1 team in the country that year. But he graduated from North Carolina A&T in 2002. I graduated there in 2004. So I have some this Saturday. I do not, but because you guys hired him as GM, I'm rooting for you guys to turn it around because I want him to succeed. And I like Dan Campbell as a coach.
Did you get to watch him play football then? Did you see him play?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I was a student there from 2000 to 2004.
Was he any
so
good?
He was on the He was on the team then. So 2002, 2001. So
where did he play? He strikes me as being a running back.
Linebacker, yeah.
I'd say a linebacker. He strikes me as a linebacker.
He's not the tallest guy though.
What did he play at A&T? I mean, I got friends that know him because during that time frame.
He's definitely a defensive guy. He's got to be.
Why?
I feel like
A&T was known for their defense. We have the Blue Death defense, so that's what we're known for. Like when folks came to Greensboro to play us, they tend to get beat up because of their defense. So let me see. What did he play? I believe he did play defense.
I got that part right. I'll take that.
And he was a captain.
That doesn't surprise me. I don't know why. He just seems he's so calm, he's so relaxed.
Oh yeah.
And he has the eye for talent he has is incredible. I mean, we're a team who've not drafted well over the years, and our second round woes have been, they make national news because of how bad they are. But I mean, even just look at this year. He finds it all the way through the draft. He seems to find the personality. He seems to find the culture fit here. He seems to get it. He's just very clever with his drafting.
You guys
defensive tackle.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was just about to surprise Ant with that. He played DT.
He plays defensive tackle.
He's not big enough to play DT. Come on, man.
Now he's not. He probably was then.
I don't think he was a nose tackle. I think he'd probably be more a 3-tech, wouldn't he? He wouldn't be a nose tackle.
But remember, too, like defensive, we're talking division. This was Division 1 AA, right? So FCS now, right? So it's FCS, FBS. So Division 1. Back then it was called Division 1 AA. But back then, too, Division 1 AA would beat some of these FBS programs because, even like my school, A&T, we recently beat UNC Charlotte as an FBS program. We beat ECU a few years back.
A lot of FCS schools won this year against FBS opponents. A lot did.
Yeah.
Getting more frequent.
Yeah. It's going to happen more. It's going to happen more, man, because because when more folks want to play, like these players want to play. They don't want to be just sitting on these Power 5 teams. So eventually good teams are gonna go down. But
teams are gonna rise, as we saw with Oregon yesterday. They're poaching everyone. The checkbook is out. So yeah, it's gonna happen. Could ruin college, or it could make it really, really good fun for a while. Should we move on to score predictions? Have we got there yet?
Sure.
What do you reckon, Dave?
What's the over-under? Whatever it is, I'm picking the under. I'll tell you that.
43.5. Paint the picture for us. What do you think is going to happen in this game? Then give us a score.
So, I'll say you guys are going to get to call the coin. Y'all probably will win the toss. Y'all will probably decide to play defense. If I was y'all, I would. We'll try to run the ball down your throat. We haven't been able to score on the first drive all year, so that's why I said you probably will play defense. So we'll probably end up. Hopefully, we could probably get to a field goal. Probably be 3-0. You guys come back. If all goes well, we can 3-and-out y'all. It'll be a back and forth. It'll be a feeling period for the first quarter. Low scoring game, I think. We'll go into the half, probably end up being tied, like a 3-3, 6-6 type of situation. And then one of us will break through, get a touchdown, be 13-6. Then eventually it'll tie again. Going into the fourth quarter, final drive, somebody's going to win off a field goal. I think it'll be Carolina will win like 16-13 or something like that. It's going to be a low-scoring game, man. It's a cold day. It's going to be a cold day.
Really cold day. And cold day. What do you make of it?
I mean, you could pretty much take Dave's scenario there and just paint my name on it, because I think exactly the same. I think at halftime, I think it's going to be 6-3 to someone at halftime, 3 field goals. And then I think there might be 1, possibly 2 touchdowns in this game, maybe. But I don't see either team breaking 20. I think it's going to be something like 17-15. The final score is going to be. I think it's going to be really low. But I just feel there's something different about this Lions team at the minute. I think in previous years, we'd have probably had a brave, heroic loss here, fighting hard, but we'd be the ones going down to the last second field goal. I just think we're riding a crest of momentum at the minute, and I think there's genuine belief and excitement around that the playoffs are a thing. And I just see it pushing us over the line, because we've specifically spent all the Brad Holmes tenure investing in our trenches, and it's for days like this, when there's a lot on the line, the elements are against you, and you're against the team who's going to kick your ass just as hard as you're going to kick theirs. So I would like to see that investment sort of just come through and just win us this one, but it's going to be close. And like I said, I'm not looking forward to playing them one bit, because I think that, if we don't turn up, they can kick our ass. And I don't want it to happen, because I'm just starting to believe the playoffs are a real thing now.
Yeah,
y'all can still make the playoffs if y'all lose, right?
Sorry?
Y'all can still make the playoffs if y'all lose, right?
Yeah, we can, but the thing is, the Packers are close on our tail to try and catch us in the north, and then you've got Seattle and Washington and the Giants all fighting for 2 spots. So if we lose, it really brings the Packers back into it, which just sucks.
To be honest,
Well, the thing is, I looked at the remaining schedules for all the wild card teams, and I see a couple scenarios where Carolina could even steal a wild card if they mess around, because of everything, the way that things are falling. And that's why, and I typically do tweets like that just to mess around with the tankers, because the tankers are really trying to convince me that we should take a quarterback with this first round pick, and I really don't want to do it. And I never really closed the loop on the question. The quarterback I want, man, I want Anthony Richardson in the second.
Take him.
I think he's got the most upside in this draft. I think if you're gonna get a guy, you want to get the most upside guy, and I think Anthony Richardson's got the most upside in this draft. And I don't think you need to spend a first round pick to go get him. No. Or if you really want to spend a first round pick, take the BPA in the first round, because you got needs. We could use another defensive lineman. We could use another. We need a middle linebacker. Like, we got options here, right? We have holes, but get back into the first round, trade up. So if you want the 5th year option, trade back into the first round, go get Anthony Richardson. Just go get him.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. In terms of my score prediction, I see it kind of similar to the guys, but I think it's going to be a slow game that isn't actually going to have as many field goals, just because of the weather. I think that people aren't going to really attempt kicks from beyond 40. I think you're going to see a lot of 4th down attempts, especially like 4th and 5 from the 35 is just a clear go for it situation in this sort of game, in this sort of weather. So it's going to be interesting to see how much scoring there is in general. I think, given that fact, I can see a kind of 17-13 game roll out there. A couple of touchdowns for the Lions, 1 for the Panthers, a couple of field goals here and there. I think the Lions edge it just. And the thing is, these are both teams in form. Since the change, the Panthers really have started to eke out games and win games and gain momentum. The ball starts rolling downhill. But 6 and 7 for the Lions, and the thing about their mentality is they don't take anyone for granted. They don't take anyone for granted. They do not think that they are better than anyone else, and I think that really stands them in good stead. So I go into this game somewhat confident, but the thing is, and I picked it out before the Jets game, everyone looks at the Jets defense and said, this is our hardest game on the schedule. But it wasn't. It was always this game, especially with the Panthers having potentially the most to play for out of these last 4. People think the Jets could, but the Panthers got the better quarterback as well. Like, we don't think much of Darnold, perhaps, but out of him or White or Wilson, I think it's, I think that Darnold is the best quarterback of that. And you're going mad up there. What's happening?
I hope there's no Oregon fans in the chat, because you just talked about how great a draft day they had signing yesterday, but Peyton Bowen, the 5-star guy, has already flipped again to Oklahoma.
Oh,
he was there for a day, and he's left.
Oops.
So, yeah, you've put the mockers on Oregon bad.
Whoops, daisy.
That is.
And Jalen Hurts is officially out against Dallas, so it is now officially the Gardner Minshew show.
Gardner Minshew
I
show.
I saw your message about Olave, man. I was anticipating he was going to be out, man. Well, I can at least move him to IR.
Guys, anything else that you guys want to bring up on the recorded section of the show? We can chat off the air about anything else, but anything about this game in particular that you guys want to get off your chests?
Like, so for me, I'll go back to the Panthers, like 5 games left in the season, right before the Seattle game, I pretty much said we can afford to lose 1 game out of these last 5 and win the division. That was my way of giving, because I looked at the other schedules too and saw that Tampa had a gauntlet ahead of them. So, because they had the Bengals, they had the 49ers. So they had 2 fades, 2 losses coming at them, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it before they played us. So I felt good that we could afford to lose one, right? And then I'm thinking if we're gonna lose one, we'll probably lose to either Seattle or potentially Detroit. Didn't think we are gonna lose Pittsburgh, right? We beat Seattle, then we lose to Pittsburgh. So now we gotta beat you guys. So, but because I don't like as much as I would like to see Tampa lose to Arizona, I just don't see it this week. Not with that quarterback situation that they got. I just don't see it.
Who's the game changer on that side then this Sunday? Who needs to play really well for you to win? The one particular guy.
For us?
Yeah.
Offensively, Foreman. Dante Foreman's got to figure out a way to run on you guys. Foreman's been struggling. Foreman struggled last week, big time. And he struggled the week before a little bit too, if you want to keep it a buck. But not against Seattle, but last week for sure he struggled. The week before, there was a three-headed monster against Seattle because Foreman, Chuba, and Blackshear had a good day against Seattle. But Foreman has to have a great game against you guys on Saturday. I got to remember we're not playing on Sunday. We're playing on Saturday. Has to have a phenomenal game against you guys on Saturday. Has to. And on offensively and defensively, I got two for that one. CJ Henderson and Jeremy Chin has to play well in the secondary. They have to play well. Have to. Like I have all the faith in JC Horn. I think JC Horn is going to play outstanding. But with Henderson coming back from injury, considering what happened to Keith Taylor while he was out, Henderson's going to have to play well. And Jeremy Chin's going to have to play well too. We have to do better on third down. Their third down defense. Have to. And they're going to be the key. Have to be the key. If they don't have good games, man, it's going to be a long day for us. Now I know the weather's going to put a factor in when it comes to how much they're going to pass. And what school did Jared Goff go to?
Cal.
Oh God, he ain't about that cold weather life either. But neither is Sam.
Hey, it's weird, but we were talking about this on our show the other week. Jared came to Detroit a cowboy, dressed like a cowboy, all that. He's a Detroit guy now. The image, the way he plays, he has adopted the city. He is no longer that cowboy who can't deal with the weather and is a bit prissy and a bit, precious. He is gritty and as determined as they come at this moment in time. The weather will not be a factor for him.
But y'all play in a dome.
Yeah.
But we also play outdoors a lot. We played in New York twice. It's not been nice there. Everyone said last week it would affect us. We played in the snow before, so go to Lambeau.
We've got to go to Lambeau and Soldier Field once a year, every year. So those are some of the coldest places in the country. So, apart from the Bills, perhaps no one ever wants to go away there in this time of year. But
and this is the second year up there, so that's a good point. This is the second year up there.
Right, I'm going to close up the audio version of the show and then we'll just take this on YouTube and Twitch. If you guys on the audio show haven't joined us live yet, we do carry on the chat afterwards, so do make sure to join us then. Dave, why don't you just plug your show again for me for the audio pod?
Yeah, not a question, man. Appreciate you guys inviting me. So we have a show, it's called Panther Nation Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Panther Nation PC. We're also on Instagram, Panther Nation PC, TikTok, Panther Nation PC. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Panther Nation PC. We go live every Monday at 9 p.m. We cover the Carolina Panthers. We also do draft coverage. My buddy Rashad, we do draft breakdowns. We do mock draft Mondays. I do a fantasy show Sunday morning prior to kickoff. I do a waiver wire show on Tuesday. I do fantasy breakdowns prior to the NFL season as well. We go live every Monday, whether there's NFL football or not. We talk about the NFL as a whole, but during the season, there's primary focus on the Carolina Panthers. And even in off season, we talk about the Panthers, but we do get into the NFL and other topics that's going on. So come check us out. We're the largest independent show on YouTube that covers the Carolina Panthers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for donating your time for that. For ourselves, it's Roar of the Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Facebook group is Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Pride Worldwide, and the website is ROTLUK.com. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff. You know, it helps us out. On the audio show, that's going to be it for us. Thank you for joining. Good luck on Saturday. Hope you have a wonderful holidays. Merry Christmas. And let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.
Right, still live, as I was kind of trying to allude to then. So,
No, you're good.
thank you for staying with us for this long. I know you said about an hour, but you've stayed well beyond that.
Yeah, like
so I
no,
appreciate you, man.
not a problem. And normally I do whenever they ask us, we typically do it for about an hour, but it's whatever. Like I got time. I mean, I just got to pick my kids up. But I wasn't sure when someone like normally Rashad tends to do these things because Rashad, you know, he works from home. So he has the bandwidth to make it happen. I typically they got me go. I got to go to the office every day. So
Oh man,
most of the time.
well, I mean, but the thing is, we'll do like an hour and a half show, but the YouTube video will be like 3 hours long because we'll just be here chatting for ages, and so we could just chat ball the whole time, as you guys know. So you know, do you have so many shows? You must be doing this all the. I don't know how you get working.
Well, no. Well, for me, I do like the shows that I have. It's at night. Like we do the live show at night, right? So like I work my normal day job. I pick up the kids, I get them dinner, get them ready for bed. And the beauty of our show, like Rashad, he does all the slides, he does all the preps, and I just show up, sit down. I don't even know what the topics are half the time. Like I pay attention to what the news is happening going on with the Panthers. But most of the time, I watch the game on Sunday. But most of the time, I don't know what the topics are. So sometimes when I'm like legitimately surprised, a lot of the times because I don't know. Like I have no clue.
Can't do that with fantasy,
unless I've heard it. Unless
you've got to go in knowing what you're doing, right? Like
I do, yeah. Because I don't. Nah, I do a lot of work on that. But I'm in a lot of leagues. Like I'm in 7 leagues right now. Like I do 7 leagues. I do daily fantasy. So yeah, I do the research on that. But once again, that's on my off time. Like I got to do it on my off time.
I just know that we do 2 shows a week, and Ant does the college show as well on a Wednesday. And I know that because I do the prep for ours, like it takes me a week. Like I got my day job, and then I'm spending most evenings, most lunchtimes working on trying to make this happen. And that's only 2 shows a week. I can't imagine you guys kind of doing like 4 or 5.
But for me, and that's the thing, like the difference between me and Rashad is this: like Rashad doesn't mind like doing the recording type of does the recording show, records a show, and then just he does the editing and he'll release something. I'm not a fan of that. I'll do them, but I prefer to just go live and go because it makes my life a little bit easier from that standpoint. Because I'll prepare on what I want to talk about for the show, and then I'll just go. Because otherwise, I'll be out here editing for hours on end. Like I just because I'm so meticulous when it comes to those type of things. Because like for example, I also have another show that got started a few months back with a couple guys that covers HBCU sports called HBCU Nightly on Twitter Spaces that we started a few months back. So you know, and that's on Wednesday nights, and that's 3 hours long.
You'll have to send us a link for that because that will be
useful.
So
it's on Twitter. So like now that you guys follow me on Twitter, whenever we go live, it's a Twitter space. So whenever we go live, it'll pop up. So you should see it. And it's recorded, so you can always pull it up.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for more things with it. Like I said, me and Ryan started doing the HBCU stuff last year when the Legacy Bowl was on and all that. And, you know, it's hard to find out a lot of information about it over here. So trying to find good sources, you know, it's hard to come by.
Yeah, it is. And let me tell you something, man. This, besides the Dion stuff, the news that's been happening in the HBCU world has been crazy. North Carolina A&T, like we were talking about Brad Holmes because, you know, he's an A&T alumnus as well. They parted ways with their football head coach last Wednesday. Reports got out that they parted ways with their head coach. So like you're talking days before the Celebration Bowl, this news broke. But It wasn't reported that high because everybody was wondering about Deion. The Celebration Bowl was happening. So in my head, I'm thinking that's not like the A&T alums are in a panic. And Sam Washington was, and the coach Sam Washington, he was down in Atlanta because Tariq Cohen, who played for the Chicago Bears, who also went to A&T, he was the inaugural Celebration Bowl Hall of Fame. He got inducted to the Celebration Bowl Hall of Fame. In the first game, he ran for 295 yards against Alcorn State in the first Celebration Bowl. So, you know, he was a
yeah. What do you make about the whole Dion thing? I mean, I've had so many conflicting things here. Obviously, when he went, we said the whole premise of him going was to sort of redefine the HBCU scene, give it more prominence and everything, and now he's gone. And some people say good for him, he should go and get the job opportunities, etc. Some people say he should have stayed and helped the team. I don't know. I mean, which side do you fall on with it?
Here's my thing about the Deion situation. When he first got hired to go to Jackson State, so I'll paint a picture for you too. So my school is not a member of, is not a full member of one of the HBCU conferences, right? A&T is a member right now of the Colonial Athletic Association. They were in the MEAC. They were a founding member of the MEAC they founded it over 50 years ago. They left to go to the Big South, and then a year later they moved to the CAA. So when Deion got hired, we were already on our way out the door to the Big South. So from A&T, from my perspective, my thing has always been this. When he got hired, I thought if he doesn't stick around at least 5 years, he needs to be there at least 10, then it's not going to be something that's going to be a permanent thing. Do I think he could do good things? Yes. But it's all about how you walk into the situation. Because he's Deion Sanders, of course he's going to be able to recruit a different set of players because of who he is. He should be able to get the 5-star guys because of who he is. Because people will love to play with the greatest cornerback in NFL history. You know, so to get a Travis Hunter shouldn't be a shocking thing, right? So when Jackson State got him, I was happy for Jackson State, but I always hoped that they took advantage of having him. And I think there were some pockets that they did, and there were some pockets that they did not. That's just my opinion on that. But I said he needs to be there for at least 5, but I don't see him being there for more than 3. Right? And 3 years isn't enough. You're not going to even get a whole graduation class. So unless he has phenomenal success there, it's just going to be a blip. But I think if he comes there and gets some better media deals for the school, for the conference, that's a good news story because then you can have that leverage in. So the Celebration Bowl got extended while he was there. That's a good news story. The SWAC was able to get a brand new media deal with HBCU Go. That's a good news story. But I think what was also happening is that he was getting credit for things that he didn't do. Like there's folks thinking that the Celebration Bowl is now on ABC. The Celebration Bowl has been on ABC since the inception. Celebration Bowl got phenomenal ratings this year because of Deion. No, Celebration Bowl was already getting phenomenal ratings before Deion showed up. Like Jackson State's is topping FCS in attendance. Jackson State's been topping FCS in attendance before Deion showed up. Like things like that, you know. So Deion Sanders did a lot for Jackson State, and I think Deion Sanders did a lot to put more eyeballs on HBCUs. But I don't think we should give Deion Sanders all the credit that he created something that was already there.
Yeah.
Think like when he says, well, Deion Sanders got more players into the NFL. North Carolina A&T had North Carolina A&T had players drafted in the NFL for 3 consecutive years, less than 5 years ago. Like, it's been happening, you know? But I think he's made strides. He's done some good things. I'm not going to try to discredit a lot of things. I just think there has to be a delicate balance of what he truly did about versus what he didn't do. Or like, well, he got Jackson State all these facilities. I'm like, some of those facilities at Jackson State was already in the plans before he showed up. When he first showed up, The AD showed them the blueprint of what the plan was. Like, it's just things like that. He did a lot for the school because he brought eyeballs to the school. But then also you have to remember too, is that you bring eyeballs to the school, and that's good, but that also means you're going to see the good and the bad. And that means as these universities, you got to understand what that expectation is. So like, for example, when the news broke about FAMU having all those issues with the players not being eligible, they were talking about they might have to cancel the UNC game. And that made national news. That doesn't make national news if Deion ain't over at Jackson State. That would have been a local thing that happened just in North Carolina. Like any other thing.
I think you got a huge swathe of new fans here. They've all stayed with us, and SW Lines just said, Dave, I know you're rooting for the other team, but I really respect your opinion and knowledge of the game. So
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
We've got Jackson State's best draftee to date, right, Ant? You're a big fan of James Houston.
Oh, yeah, James Houston. We didn't even talk about him, man. I'm kind of mad at myself for that.
Yeah, no, he's...
And I think now the Jackson State folks are going to attack me because I didn't talk about him. Because on HBCU Nightly, I advertised the fact that I was hopping on y'all's show.
Yeah, but no, I watched him last season. He was amazing. I think HBCUs, they got the most drafted players last year, didn't they? There were four altogether who got drafted, but it's getting better.
There was four players, and the first guy that got drafted.
I wanted the safety. Oh God, I keep
Marquise Bell.
Didn't
even get drafted.
No, he was on my mock draft at like round 4 or 5. I'd been eyeing him up all season. I thought he was amazing, and it's just like no one picked him. Why has no one picked him?
You were a big fan.
Well, the thing is,
if I remember rightly, you were a big fan of the Alabama A&M quarterback as well, right? Was that Akil Glass?
Yeah, Akil Glass, and then Keenan Forbes, who was the Florida A&M guard. I don't know where he's ended up. I don't know if he got drafted.
So we had a guy that hopped on our HBCU Nightly space a few weeks ago, and we had a discussion about the differences of the FCS conferences, particularly the HBCU conferences versus all the other conferences, because we just had this strong debate about the fact that why we don't have more players in the NFL. And he works in the league. He works in the NFL. He kept it a buck. He pretty much said, he was like, there's a lot of folks in the NFL that don't think those conferences is good football. And so a lot of the times, a lot of the scouts don't watch the film. So the only games because the reason why that discussion started was because it was a debate on, do HBCUs need to play money games or not? And for those who don't know what a money game is, a money game is an FCS program, or typically HBCUs, but FCS programs do this too. They play like a big Power 5 school or a Group of 5 school. That school pays them money, pays that other school money to come play them. So, for example, when A&T goes to play, who are we playing next year? We're playing UAB. UAB is going to pay us $300,000 to go to UAB to play them. So the answer was, the reason why it was important is because a lot of times that's the only film that the players, those HBCU players, get exposure in. So when the cornerback from South Carolina State, can't remember his name right now, he plays for the Colts. God, what is his name? Corey, I think it's Jacoby something. Can't remember his name now. I'm gonna get crushed on that one too. But he got 3 interceptions against Clemson in 2021 in a money game when Clemson played South Carolina State. And they pretty much, and when the Rams drafted him. The Rams pretty much said, we drafted him because of the game that he had against Clemson. When South Carolina State played Clemson and he got those 3 interceptions against Clemson. They knew then that he was an NFL player. Not the games when they played in the MEAC, not the Celebration Bowl, that one game. So because the SWAC historically doesn't play that many of those money games. They tend to play their classics. Like they have a bunch of classics that they play. The Orange Blossom Classic, they play all these other classic games because that gives them a lot of revenue for their football programs, which is understandable. Versus playing a money game where there's a lot of injuries, people get hurt, things of that sort. Like when you see a game like Southern versus LSU, LSU is going to beat them 70-0. because you just can't compete. You're talking about a scholarship difference. You're talking about a bunch of 5-stars, a bunch of potential NFL players, which is a bunch of guys that might not necessarily, maybe 1 or 2 might have a shot to get into the league. And ironically enough, there was a kid from Southern that got drafted last year too, right?
Yeah.
So it's just,
yeah.
So, things like that, right? So, but typically those are the only games that those folks get to see of those players, which is kind of insulting to them. But this guy that works in the league told those guys that, like, that's why when you see somebody like an A&T make the decision to jump out of the conference, they want to try to get more players in the league too. And it's also about academics because they want to try to be more with their peer institutions as well. So, there's a lot of layers to it when it comes to the conference, but they do play some really good ball down there, man. And there's a lot of great players that come out of that comes out of there. Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
We got a few.
I will catch a show then for sure.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. You can it's hard to search the Twitter Spaces on Twitter, but we record them all on HBCU Nightly. So if you just search HBCU Nightly on Twitter Spaces, you should be able to find them.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty good shows. We'll joke about rivalries and stuff like that too, because I mean the main host is me. I went to A&T, and my boy Josh, he went to North Carolina Central, so we have a lot of back and forth. And then we got another guy, my boy Markham, who went to Morgan State. So we try to, there's a lot of, like, you can find a lot of SWAC coverage. There isn't that much MEAC coverage, and there's not a lot of independent coverage. We call them the independents, the HBCU, the Division I HBCUs that aren't in one of those 2 conferences, like North Carolina A&T that's in the CAA, Tennessee State that's in the Ohio Valley Conference, and Hampton, who's also in the CAA. So they don't get that much coverage when it comes to that.
No. Got a question from the chat from Busy, who's asked. It says, "Can you ask Dave if those money games include ticket share?"
Actually, I'm glad you said that. The game against UAB is going to be the first game that A&T is going to get a cut of the ticket share, but it's only based on the allocation that they're going to get. I believe they're going to get 40% of their allocation. I have no idea what the allocation is, so it's a pretty good deal. But like, we played North Dakota State last year, and I think we got paid, I believe, $300,000 to go to North Dakota State to play them. So it's rare that an FCS program will pay us to go. But that game was scheduled back in 2020, where when A&T was the HBCU national champion and North Dakota State was the FCS national champion, because the SWAC and the MEAC don't play in the FCS playoffs because they have the bowl game, because it was more lucrative from a money standpoint for them.
I always wondered that. I always wondered why you didn't see them. It's because they've got the Celebration Bowl that they don't do.
Well, before the Celebration Bowl, the SWAC never played in it. It's been like, I think the SWAC didn't have a playoff bid for a very, very automatic bid for a long time because of the Bayou Classic. The Bayou Classic was the same week, Grambling versus Southern. So they always had it, right? Because they're the same week. It was the same week. And the SWAC had the SWAC championship because they have divisions. So the East and the West play each other for a SWAC championship. So because they had that championship game, then they can't have the automatic bid. So the SWAC never had it. The MEAC always had an automatic bid, but when they made the decision to do the Celebration Bowl, they had to give up their automatic bid. But that bowl game brings in more money to the schools than the FCS playoffs do. The FCS playoffs is, like most of the schools that play in the FCS playoffs, it's a losing proposition for them. They lose money. The NCAA takes 70% of the money. Jeez. So they take 70% of the ticket sales. It's a losing proposition for them.
That's insane.
They never really talk about it, but that's the facts of life.
That's ridiculous.
And the only schools that benefit is something like somebody like a North Dakota State, where they are like the state. Like, that school is like the state, and they have like a system in place. So the town of Fargo gives money to the school. So like, they can build a $51 million indoor practice facility, all privately funded by the businesses around the city. Jeez. They can do things like that. And then when people ask them, why don't they go FBS? It's because they don't have to. They can just sit here fat, dumb, and happy in the Missouri Valley Conference and break in the dough. They don't have to, because for them it's about making the money. But for most, like James Madison just went to FBS. The biggest reason why is because they were losing money.
And then look at what they did when they came up. They were absolute revelation this year.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm going to have to dash, Matt, because
Yeah.
I've got to dash over to. I promised Mike I'd go over, and he's
Yeah,
got 20
I know
minutes
you.
left.
And I was
So
just about to say I'm suffering with my cold anyway, so I'm on the brink of sneezing
Yeah.
my way to hell. Dave, we've
I
kept you so long, man.
Nah, it's cool. Nah, it's cool. This is fun, man. And I gotta get ready because I'm starting a new show tonight too. Because I'm a big hip hop head.
Hopefully,
Well,
some
I'm starting a new
guys
show
from this
tonight.
show will pop over to yours.
Well, I'll check out your spaces, Dave. So thank you very much for that, and thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Not a question, man. You guys have a lovely night. Happy holidays to you all.
You
All
too.
right.
Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you
And
soon.
I'll see you soon.
Good luck for Saturday.
Have a good one. Yep. Thanks. You too.
Cheers. Bye. And to everyone in the live chats as well, hope you enjoyed it. Dave, obviously a fantastic guest. We will see you. I won't be doing a live this Saturday. It's Christmas Eve. Family takes priority. For New Year's Eve, I'm not sure, but I think that the girlfriend will probably take priority as well. Got to treat it right sometimes. So we will try and do a normal review show and preview show next week. And then we will get on a review show after New Year's. And then we'll hopefully be back into our normal programming, and hopefully there'll still be some line games to go there after week 18, but we shall see. But thanks to everyone for joining us for the show, for being really active in the chat, for showing Dave some love. That was really appreciated. Have a great time, have a great Christmas, and good luck, Lions. We'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.